Chapter 8-21, Preparing for the School Level League. The School League's first event was scheduled to begin in November, causing a stir among the Hogwarts students, especially with the arrival of students from foreign schools. The library became a melting pot of diverse faces, all deeply engrossed in Hogwarts' vast repository of knowledge. The students, particularly those from the mysterious East, devoured book after book with unwavering focus, treating the material as if it were merely daily homework. "What are they doing?" asked Dennis Creevey, a Gryffindor student and younger brother to Colin Creevey, Harry Potter's avid fan and the royal photographer during the Siege of the Saints. Colin had since become a contract photographer for the Daily Prophet. Dennis found the behavior of the students from other schools puzzling. The first event of the school-level league involves testing the storage of magical knowledge, explained a knowledgeable Ravenclaw girl. This knowledge is most accessible to Hogwarts students, which is why visitors are flocking to the library to cram as much information as possible. Dennis's eyes widened in realization. The school-level league comprised 3 categories: storage of magical knowledge, application of magical skills, and the Quidditch Magic Star Cup. The Magical Knowledge Reserve had virtually no upper limit, encompassing all subjects taught at Hogwarts, from care of magical creatures to herbology. Students eagerly absorbed any information that might appear in the quiz. Outside in the courtyard, a wizard was seen practicing spells, his wand movements causing alarm among the bystanders. The students from Ouagadougou, known for their minimal reliance on wands, sometimes cast spells wandlessly out of impatience, further astonishing their peers. Mealtimes at Hogwarts were bustling with activity. The Great Hall was filled with an array of dishes, some prepared by chefs or house elves brought by the visiting schools. The food from Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School was particularly intriguing, with dishes like Mao Shuiwang challenging Dennis's preconceptions about blood consumption. Despite his initial reservations, the spicy dish quickly became a favorite, though he couldn't understand why the food from this school seemed so peculiar. Principal Bailey of Casterbush took great pleasure in offering barbecue and yerba mate to guests from other schools, personally serving generous portions of meat. Professor Slughorn, however, was less enthusiastic about the mate tea, finding its taste peculiar. Meanwhile, another centenarian principal contentedly sipped vodka. During his time at the League, Dennis befriended a 7th-year student from Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School. "My name is Dennis Creevey," he introduced himself, unsure if the student understood English. To his surprise, the student responded in flawless English with a distinct northeastern accent. "Hello," said Chen, hurriedly finishing his mouthful of meat and popping a piece of garlic into his mouth. Dennis was relieved to confirm that Chen was definitely not a vampire, given his enjoyment of garlic with meat. After a brief exchange, Chen explained that his name was inspired by an ancient Eastern poem, leading to a moment of confusion for Dennis. Despite the unfamiliarity with Eastern naming conventions, Dennis recognized the value of making new friends in such a diverse environment. As the preparations for the school-level league continued, the students at Hogwarts found themselves immersed in a rich tapestry of cultures and magical practices, each bringing their own unique contributions to the storied halls of the school. There must be something special about the visitors' arrival, akin to how students in Ben Ade yearned to live in the library, a place from which Miss Pince could hardly disperse the crowd. "Old Dan, I've heard this is the alma mater of the Witch King. Were you in the same house as him?" Dennis took a moment to understand the thick northeastern English accent. Shaking his head, he replied, "He was from Slytherin. That's where he belonged." Thoughtfully, Dennis gestured towards the Slytherin table, pointing to an unoccupied seat, and added, "That's the Witch King's seat. Slytherin never allows anyone else to sit there." Upon hearing this, Chen Chaozi's eyes lit up with excitement. "Oh my God, I must touch the throne of the great god!" he exclaimed, dragging Dennis towards the Slytherin table. However, their adventure was short-lived, and soon after, Chen Chaozi and Dennis found themselves squatting in the hall, looking dejected. "Old Dan, you're so heartless. You didn't warn me those guys were capable of violence," Chen Chaozi lamented, nursing his bruised eye. With a mix of sorrow and indignation, he added, "I, who have trained in the Shaolin Temple's Golden Bell technique, was overpowered by more than a dozen people. "Are you sure they're wizards?" Dennis asked, still shaken by the experience. "They believe in the supremacy of strength and are the most skilled duelists and fighters in the school." Chen Chaozi's expression turned dull, frustrated that Dennis hadn't warned him sooner. Dennis, for his part, hadn't anticipated anyone would brazenly confront Slytherin. He recalled how even Slughorn had once accidentally provoked them and was nearly attacked with hostile glares. "Chen, what event are you participating in?" Dennis's curiosity about Chen Chaozi's role in the team grew. "I'm not focused on any particular event. I just didn't want to be burdened with menial tasks, so I joined the team," Chen Chaozi explained, expressing his dissatisfaction with the school's demanding requirements, including a year-long internship for a certificate. "Had I known, I would have chosen Longhu Mountain, where I could have at least learned the Golden Light spell." Though Dennis was unfamiliar with internships and the Golden Light spell, he offered a sympathetic pat on the shoulder, acknowledging, "You've had your share of challenges too." As they lingered at the door, pondering whether Slytherin would expel and attack them, a stocky figure entered the foyer. The newcomer paused, glancing at the two disheveled students by the door. Neville, puzzled by the odd appearance of these students, decided not to dwell on it. After all, Hogwarts was home to a diverse student body. He proceeded into the Great Hall, leaving the two engrossed in their conversation, oblivious to his presence. Dennis recounted an encounter with the Star Club, a story overheard by a student from Ben Aid. "The Society of Stars is a Hogwarts legend," Dennis reflected. "It's a treasure left by the Witch King, rumored to be hidden throughout the school." "The Witch King's treasure?" Chen Chaozi's interest was piqued, and soon the tale spread beyond Ben Adi to Durmstrang, Ilvermorny, and Beauxbatons. Within a day, the entire school was abuzz with rumors of a secret chamber left by the Witch King in Hogwarts, sparking a treasure hunt that very night. Filch's solitary room was overwhelmed with students, including Chen Chaozi and Dennis, all drawn to the mystery. As November ushered in the cold, the Wizarding City braced for winter. The Magic Tower, with its unique structure, became exceptionally chilly. Basil, a bird, flew in from the cold, gliding over Tom's head before settling on a shelf. A letter gently landed on John, who sat cross-legged on the icy floor, his eyes slowly opening as he returned from his mental journey. The village of Hogsmeade remained untouched, a silent witness to the unfolding events. Upon arriving at the City of Wizards, John observed Hagrid and Miss Maxim exiting with students mounted on their backs. However, Miss Maxim appeared visibly upset due to a few feathers being plucked from her rune horse by Grop. Hagrid, on the other hand, didn't see it as a significant issue. As a magical animal expert, he believed that the loss of a few feathers wouldn't impair the rune horse's ability to fly. The disparity in their perspectives left Hagrid baffled about Ms. Maxim's irritation. John couldn't help but sigh at the sight, thinking to himself, Hagrid still doesn't grasp Ms. Maxim's feelings. He mused, "You should at least pluck a few hairs from Grop as compensation. That would be a fair exchange." Convinced his reasoning was sound, John then turned his attention to the letter he had received. It was from Slughorn, most likely extending an invitation to Hogwarts. With the first event less than a week away, anticipation was building. Chapter 822, The Arrival of the Witch King. Reflecting on the chaotic scene he had witnessed in the Hall of Thought, John couldn't suppress a chuckle. Hogwarts has indeed become quite lively, he mused. Upon opening the letter, he discovered that Slughorn had extended an invitation for him to attend Hogwarts for the first game on November 11th. Slughorn's plan was to invite various wizards to the school-level league's 3 types of competitions. Notably, for the Magic Star Cup, he intended to invite Krum, who was currently the best seeker. John couldn't help but marvel at Slughorn's unconventional thinking when he saw that Malfoy was also on the guest list, seemingly unconcerned about the potential for Malfoy to be mobbed by attendees. A quiz contest? John pondered, thinking that Hermione would likely excel in such a competition, regretting that there hadn't been one during his time at school. "I'm heading to Hogwarts. Who wants to come along?" he asked, glancing at the 2 owls. Riddle remained still, while Basil looked at Riddle, stirred slightly, but chose not to descend. "It seems you all prefer staying in the magic tower," John concluded with a resigned shake of his head. Tom the dog approached and circled around him. Patting Tom's head, John smiled. "Then it looks like you're coming with me, Tom." Tom wagged his tail, clearly delighted. In the meantime, Wizard City had achieved stability. While the pace of expansion continued, the community celebrated the application for marriage by more than 100 pairs of wizards the previous day. Some had expressed interest in polygamy or polyandry, leading the staff at the Magic Marriage Registry to caution them against such arrangements unless they wished to invite curses upon themselves. One wizard argued that his proposal was meant to enhance the magical gene pool and benefit magical society. The Malfoy family had been casting a wide net across Britain, acquiring numerous companies, a strategy mirrored by the Delacour family. With long heritages and well-preserved antiques, these wizarding families were able to quickly liquidate their treasures for funds. Following their lead, other families, including the Goyles and Crabs, began making acquisitions internationally. However, due to their limited intellect, Goyle and Crab nearly crashed the antique market by liquidating too many items at once, prompting an emergency recall and review meeting by the Ancient Alliance. This incident led to a warning from a country to the Magic Kingdom, urging restraint among its wizards. Nevertheless, some quick-witted muggles saw an opportunity in the wizards' possession of valuable historical relics, seeking to earn commissions from the antique trade. Aware of Goyle and Crab's lack of discretion, John recommended that their families appoint Muggle agents to manage their wizarding estates. This approach was swiftly adopted by various families, allowing them to invest behind the scenes while Muggles expanded their wealth. Wizard agents became a phenomenon worldwide, managing vast assets for wealthy but naive clients. This development caught the attention of national governments, which issued subtle warnings against excessive dealings. However, the economic benefits were too significant to ignore, and soon the nations began to recognize the formidable influence of the wizarding industry within their economies. As John busied himself with daily management tasks, time flew by, and the day before the Hogwarts game arrived. Throughout this period, Tom remained a constant companion, eagerly anticipating their upcoming adventure to Hogwarts. John eagerly anticipated seeing Fang again. Upon arrival, he noticed the once vibrant dog now appeared older and less lively within Hagrid's hut. John couldn't help but feel that Hagrid would be devastated if anything happened to Fang, who, next to Aragog, had been his longest-standing companion. In the meantime, Slughorn, concerned that John might forget, sent another letter. He reiterated his lack of urgency, but wanted to keep John informed about the progress of his preparations. He also briefly mentioned the vampire curse, revealing that he had asked Severus Snape to conduct research on it. John couldn't help but think that Damo Alex's notorious reputation was well-earned, having been a student of Slughorn and mastered the art of achieving success with minimal effort. This was a trait common among Slytherins, who, while not averse to taking shortcuts, were certainly not as obstinate as others. As night turned into day, the stars faded, giving way to the warmth of the sun and a brisk wind. Tom, ever the caring elder sibling, had prepared 2 deep pockets full of dog food for Yaya, never forgetting his little brother's preferences. Tom circled around John, patiently waiting for him to awaken. When the sunlight finally caressed John, he opened his eyes and, seeing Tom ready to go, grinned and suggested, "Let's go and see Hogwarts." Today marked the beginning of the first inter-school league, the Magic Knowledge Reserve competition. The headmasters of each participating school had donned their ceremonial robes and taken their places in the guest seats of the competition venue. The competition required 3 students from each school to answer questions by producing sparks, with rounds divided into individual and team categories. Correct answers would add a gem to the school's hourglass, with the combined scores from both rounds determining the victor. Slughorn explained the rules, announcing that Hogwarts' deputy headmistress, Professor McGonagall, would serve as the chief examiner. Known for her proficiency in transfiguration among other magical disciplines, Professor McGonagall's reputation was such that even the Witch King was said to have learned from her, a fact that filled the students from Wagadu with admiration, though it made the professor feel somewhat uneasy. "Are you sure the Witch King is coming?" Babajid inquired, concerned about John's absence as the competition was about to start. Slughorn, too, was worried, fearing that John might have forgotten his commitment. Just as he contemplated beginning without him, a golden streak appeared in the sky. It burst into flames, forming a fire dragon that descended rapidly towards the guest seats. As the flames vanished, John emerged, chuckling, "I hope I'm not late." The Witch King had arrived. Chapter 823, Magic Knowledge Reserve Competition. The arrival of the Witch King elevated the previously mundane Magic Knowledge Reserve game to an exhilarating climax. With a gleeful expression, Slughorn declared, "The Magic Knowledge Reserve Competition officially begins." At his command, the competition commenced. Professor McGonagall, clearing her throat, introduced the first event. "We shall start with the team competition. Teams may use their wands to launch red sparks towards the clock in the center to signal their readiness to answer. Each correct answer will earn the team 5 points, while 3 points will be deducted for each incorrect one." She explained the rules, emphasizing the challenge of not only possessing the knowledge, but also the skill to accurately hit the target. The contestants, arranged in a circle around the central clock, 20 meters away, faced the daunting task of precision. As the players awaited nervously, Professor McGonagall's voice resonated clearly, announcing the first question on the magically displayed letters on the clock. "What are the 3 heads of the rune snake called?" Wagadu's team sprang into action. Tabor, acquainted with John, successfully hit the clock with red sparks and confidently answered, "The left head is known as the planner, guiding the direction and decisions. The middle, the sleepwalker, lost in grand dreams, and the right, the critic, evaluating the actions of the other 2 heads." "Correct and flawless," Professor McGonagall praised, rewarding Wadu with 5 points. The team's morale soared as golden gems cascaded into their hourglass. Wagadu's expertise in magical creatures and transfiguration was evident. The competition proceeded, with McGonagall posing another question. "Where would one find a Bezoar stone?" A student from Banad swiftly responded, hitting the bell first, "Inside a goat's stomach." "Quick and precise," commended Professor McGonagall, adding 5 points to Banad's score. Meanwhile, Hogwarts students grew anxious as their hourglass remained empty, witnessing the prowess of other schools. Astoria, representing Hogwarts, faced the pressure with determination. The next question was, what kind of magic potion can scurvy grass be used for? Without hesitation, Astoria launched sparks towards the bell, narrowly beating Durmstrang's attempt. The close timing required Professor McGonagall to use her wand to determine the first hit, granting Hogwarts the opportunity to answer. Despite her teammates' uncertainty, Astoria remained composed. "Scurvy grass," she explained, "is a herb that can induce encephalitis, leading to impulsiveness and recklessness. It is primarily used in potions for confusion and delusion." "Perfect answer," Professor McGonagall announced, awarding Hogwarts 5 points. The previously skeptical Ravenclaw boy was left in embarrassment, having underestimated Astoria's knowledge. As the competition continued, the intensity of the rivalry among schools underscored the importance of both knowledge and precision. The Magic Knowledge Reserve competition not only tested the contestants' understanding of magical lore, but also their ability to perform under pressure, revealing the depth of talent across the participating schools. Astoria emphasized the importance of teamwork, saying, "This is what team competition is about. If one person's wisdom is insufficient, let the collective wisdom of 3 make up for it." Professor McGonagall proceeded with the quiz, and as the questions grew more challenging, some participants hesitated before responding. A sense of anticipation lit up the faces of Banad's students when they noticed a trend in the questions, particularly towards potions. Aware of the school principal's expertise in potions, they had strategically prepared by selecting contestants with strong knowledge in that area, which paid off as Banad secured the second position. Surprisingly, the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School excelled, taking the lead, especially in the later stages of the competition. Their success underscored the depth of knowledge fostered by Eastern education systems, which enabled their students to quickly identify the correct answers. Chen Chaochi energetically supported his captain, Lieria, with a playful incentive. "Come on, Lieria, win this, and I'll treat you to pork-stewed vermicelli." The competition was unexpectedly thrilling, with knowledge-based questions creating significant excitement among the audience. Babajidi, the principal of Wagadu, was visibly supportive of his team from the guest table. At this point, Hogwarts was in 4th place, with Wagadu just ahead in 3rd. This was a notable outcome, as none of the 3 major European magic schools were in the top 3 positions, a humbling reminder of the broader world of talent. As the competition progressed, incorrect answers were penalized by a deduction of 3 points, but Astoria seized every opportunity to recover lost ground, eventually tying with Wagadu's score. When the topic shifted to alchemy, Beauxbatons demonstrated their prowess, climbing from 7th to 5th place, while Wagadu excelled, overtaking Benad to secure the 2nd position. The Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School maintained its lead due to strong performances in earlier rounds. The competition was fierce between Wagadu and Beauxbatons, with the schools fluctuating between 2nd and 4th places. Astoria, feeling the pressure, managed to recapture some points during the astronomy segment, placing them once again in 3rd. Despite the focus on potions, the diversity of questions allowed for a dynamic competition among the 10 schools. As the contest neared its conclusion, the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School faced challenges with divination questions, leading to a significant drop from 1st to 3rd place. Hogwarts leveraged the Centaur's brusque expertise in astrology to advance to 2nd place, while Wagadu surged ahead to 1st. Kodos Dores, despite its strengths, missed crucial opportunities and remained behind Hogwarts. Benad fell to 5th place, with Beauxbatons narrowly ahead. The final question posed by Professor McGonagall was, what is the main ingredient of Wolfsbane potion? In a frantic rush to answer, the contestants triggered the bell to ring incessantly. To manage the chaos, Professor McGonagall resorted to using magic. The first spark that was cast returned in the same manner, landing on the side of Ilvermorny. Wolf Poison Econom was the correct answer, earning Ilvermorny 5 points. With the team competition concluded, emotions varied among the schools. Some were jubilant, while others were visibly disappointed. Hogwarts' performance was commendable, closely matching that of Wagadu. The scores among the top 5 schools were nearly identical, indicating that the upcoming individual competition would be crucial. The strongest contender from each school was needed, as the final score from this round, combined with the team competition score, would determine the overall winner. A Ravenclaw boy initially showed interest in participating, but after a glance at Astoria, he quietly stepped aside. A Gryffindor student also considered the challenge, but ultimately deferred to Astoria, recognizing her as the best choice for this critical task. Following a lunch break, the individual competition was set to begin, sparking lively discussions throughout the auditorium. Some students hurried to the library, eager to cram more knowledge in preparation for the afternoon's challenge. This was their opportunity for a comeback. The individual competition posed a daunting challenge, as the complexity of the questions, when directed at a single person, significantly increased the difficulty. Professor Slughorn was visibly delighted, his grin wide and joyful. In contrast, Principal Bernard appeared sullen, as if he had suffered a great loss. The competition was to be broadcast on Magic Radio, with the entire Wizarding City expected to rally behind their respective alma maters. Meanwhile, John chose not to visit Astoria, focusing instead on other matters. Tom, having returned to Hogwarts, brought a lively atmosphere with him. He scampered around the Slytherin common room, receiving affectionate pats on the head from many. Tom was on his way to meet his good friend Yaya, with John accompanying him out of the castle. The younger students kept their distance from John, who wore a magical landscarf, though Tom seemed indifferent to the cold. In the distance, Madame Maxime's rune horse was spotted drinking ale. It was unclear where Hagrid was, but Grop was seen tending to the rune horses, ensuring they were well cared for. Chapter 824. Yaya and Tom. After spending considerable time with Hagrid, Grop had come to understand some basic housework. Though the students harbored no ill intentions towards the giant who had once defended Hogwarts, Grop's unintentionally rough behavior could easily result in injuries. Consequently, students tended to maintain a safe distance from him. Upon John's arrival, he found Grop meticulously brushing the fur of a rune horse. Inside the house, Fang lifted his head, basking in the warmth of the golden flames emanating from the stove. Sensing Tom's presence, Yaya perked up and used his large paw to open the door of the hut. Tom, overjoyed to see his friend, ran over, and they joyfully circled each other. "Grop, it's been a while," John greeted the giant, who responded by happily waving the brush in his hand. However, his excitement nearly caused him to lose his balance. John couldn't help but smile, seeing that Grop still possessed a childlike innocence. Shortly after, Yaya and Tom ventured outside to play near the forbidden forest, leaving John in the cave. Inside, 3 stools of varying sizes were arranged, designated for John, Hagrid, and Grop. Grop carefully poured boiling water into an aluminum teapot so large it could serve as a bathtub for some. The tea leaves swirled with the boiling water before being poured into a cup. "Hot," Grop warned as he pushed the small teacup towards John, who gratefully accepted it. After a period of separation, it was evident that Grop had learned the art of tea-making. John drank the tea in one gulp, reassured that it was free of toxins. Observing John's ability to drink the hot tea without harm, Grop, puzzled, attempted to mimic him but ended up scalding his mouth. John quickly used a water summoning spell to alleviate Grop's discomfort. The giant couldn't understand why he was affected by the heat while John was not. John's attention was drawn to a stick and fur ball in the corner of Grop's cave, remnants of past playtimes. Grop, noticing them as well, expressed his loneliness with Hagrid and the cat's absence. John reassured him. Hagrid is merely preoccupied with love, and Zuwu will return in time. He's received the Witch King's blessing, after all. Comforted by John's words, Grop fetched some food from the forbidden forest to share. "Hagrid taught me." Grop gestured as if wielding a hoe, to plant. Intrigued by the notion of Grop learning to farm, John followed him to the cultivated fields. A fallen tree, repurposed as a hedge, enclosed the area of rich black soil that Grop had tilled using his unique strength. Within, rare herbs and apple trees thrived. Hagrid had fashioned a hoe for Grop, though its design left much to be desired. Grop's attempts to use it often resulted in the tool flying out of his hands. John, deciding to assist, touched the hoe with both hands, invoking a magic circle that enveloped it. Utilizing some remaining metals from Wagadu in his bag, he transformed the hoe. The rough handle smoothed into a carved texture, and the metal parts were replaced with a blend of silver and gold, adorned with magical runes. "I grant you the ability to cultivate the earth. No matter the hardness of the soil, it will yield under your touch, teeming with life and fostering bountiful crops," John proclaimed, bestowing a blessing upon the hoe. With the Witch King's blessing, the hoe was not only transformed in appearance, but imbued with extraordinary capabilities. Grop, picking up the newly enchanted tool, felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement for the work ahead. John picked it up excitedly and smashed it down with a hoe. The soil on the ground was turned over like flowing water, revealing sprouts where the seeds had been scattered. Grop, the giant, seemed tireless, digging up the enclosed hedges one after another. Realizing Grop had no intention of stopping, John quickly intervened. "Stop it, Grop." Grop obediently ceased his actions, wiping the dirt from his face and blinking his small eyes. Despite his size, he appeared naive and far less ferocious than one would expect from a giant. This unique trait made John think, perhaps this was the world's only giant capable of farming. This revelation could provide giants with a new livelihood, considering their usual reliance on hunting for food. If a group of giants could farm with such efficiency, they wouldn't be so easily ostracized. John pondered the possibility of transforming warlike giants into agricultural tycoons within the magical world. Meanwhile, Tom and Tooth were causing chaos. Students witnessed a large black dog chasing a smaller one and assumed it was a case of bullying. However, Tom simply made Yaya run in place before both dogs resumed their playful chase, even darting under the tables in the auditorium and causing students to lift their feet. Unfortunately, Yaya collided with a table leg, leaving the dog dazed. "What is that?" Babajid wondered, mistaking the commotion for a student's transfiguration spell. Slughorn, recognizing the animals, introduced them as the Witch King's pet and Professor Hagrid's dog. Ben-Ad, the principal, was ready to ridicule the duo for their antics, but changed his tune upon realizing their ownership, praising the pets as young and promising. Ludwig found the description odd, especially for a dog. Yaya's fall and Tom's attempt to rouse him by lying down beside him and then trying to pull him away with his paws initially seemed like playful behavior. However, when Yaya remained unresponsive, the students sensed something was amiss. Astoria quickly approached and realized Yaya had fainted. She used a levitation spell to transport the dog to the school hospital, causing Madame Pomfrey anxiety, since she was unaccustomed to treating animals, and Hagrid, the usual go-to for such matters, was unavailable. In her worry, Astoria contacted John. "John, Fang hit his head," she said urgently. John, who had been discussing farming with Grop, immediately opened a spatial channel to arrive at the scene. Upon seeing Yaya, he reassured Astoria, "It's okay, he just fainted." After gently stroking Yaya's head, the dog suddenly became alert, much to everyone's relief. Tom, who had been anxiously circling, calmed down as Yaya showed affection towards him. After Astoria left to prepare for the afternoon game, John took Tom and Yaya back to Hagrid's cabin. "Tom, you are different from Yaya," John said, touching Tom's head. "It doesn't have the strength of For Tom, colliding with a wall or tumbling from the heights of the magic tower would at most result in a few broken bones. He would recover fully within a few days, thanks to the robust physique he had acquired through John's numerous enhancements." However, Yaya was not as fortunate. Despite its considerable size, nurtured under Hagrid's care, it remained an ordinary dog at its core. The impact to its head, coupled with its age, were its vulnerabilities. When two beings of disparate strengths are paired, the outcome is often sorrowful. John noticed Yaya drawing near and gently placed his hand on the dog's head. "You may not be as resilient as Tom, but I can extend your life a bit," he said, acknowledging the inherent differences between Yaya and more magically enhanced creatures like Tom. "However, you must exercise caution during play, especially when it comes to heights. Consider both your and Yaya's physical limitations." After releasing the two dogs, John was alerted by footsteps and exclamations from outside the hut. As the door swung open, two towering figures appeared at the threshold. John, Hagrid, adorned with a ring of grass atop his head, expressed his astonishment. John's gaze shifted to Ms. Maxim, a tall and majestic woman who, at that moment, appeared disheveled, her attire stained with mud and entangled in weeds. Chapter 825, The Forbidden Forest Riot, Caused by the Little Dragon. John looked at the two hybrid giants with a puzzled expression. They appeared embarrassed, as if they had just battled a monstrous creature. Hagrid's face fell, and he seemed somewhat resentful. "John, you'd better come and see this with me," Hagrid urged, leading John out of the hut. John smiled and nodded to Miss Maxim, who seemed reluctant to venture there again. "Long time no see, Miss Maxim." "John, or should I say the Witch King," Miss Maxim replied with a smile. "I plan to visit Wizard City during the holidays. I hope to have a pleasant tour." "You're welcome any time," John assured her. "John, this way," Hagrid called out from outside, his voice booming. John and Ms. Maxim exchanged a look of resignation. After bidding farewell, John followed Hagrid into the Forbidden Forest. "You really need to see this. It's causing chaos throughout the entire Forbidden Forest," Hagrid grumbled as they walked, clearly troubled by the situation. Before they even reached their destination, John could hear the sound of centaurs drawing their bows and arrows, angrily demanding retribution. "Oh dear, it seems to have ventured into the unicorn colony. I hope the unicorns are unharmed," Hagrid exclaimed, quickening his pace. John followed calmly. As they approached the unicorn colony, they witnessed centaurs in a frenzy, shooting arrows that were deflected back at them. The centaurs, one after another, were effortlessly picked up and tossed aside by their unseen adversary. Despite their efforts, the centaurs were outmatched and resorted to using a vine rope to try and capture their foe. They managed to loop it around its neck and arms, but their tactics proved futile against its sheer strength. The figure, clad in armor resembling dragon scales, stood unmovable. With a simple gesture, he sent the rope and the entangled centaur flying into a pool beneath a waterfall, home to the unicorns. Then, with a ferocious charge, he grabbed a black-haired centaur, scattering the centaur formation. After dispatching the centaurs, The figure looked up and roared, the sound echoing through the forest and startling the birds. Hagrid was perplexed by the display, but John understood its significance. "Who else dares challenge me?" John thought, recognizing the figure's daffodil-like pattern and armor. It was the Star Spirit Guard, Xiaolong. John sighed, covering his face. He knew Xiaolong's temperament mirrored Malfoy's, and that it was only a matter of time before he caused trouble at Hogwarts. However, he hadn't anticipated Xiaolong becoming the Forbidden Forest's public enemy so soon. John also realized why Hagrid looked so troubled. He likely recognized Xiaolong's identity. As the creator, John knew not all Star Spirit Guards behaved this way. Xiaolong was uniquely unruly. "All right, I'll handle this," John said, noticing the dirt and weeds on Hagrid, indicating he too had been thrown aside. Approaching Xiaolong with a stern expression, John watched as the little dragon, initially defiant, recognized its creator and immediately transformed back into a star spirit, running over to him. "Xiaolong, how did you manage to become the Forbidden Forest's public enemy while tasked with protecting magic?" John asked, picking up the little dragon and addressing the gathered, battered centaurs. "If there's nothing serious, I'll take him away to discuss this matter." The centaurs, initially intent on confronting Xiaolong, lost their resolve upon seeing John. They agreed to let Xiaolong go for the day. John realized he needed to find a permanent solution for Xiaolong's behavior. To ensure the safety of the Forbidden Forest, it was necessary for the little dragon to stay. Over time, the scales on the dragon's body darkened, blending seamlessly with the shadows of the forest. This adaptation was a testament to the Star Spirit Guardian's ability to evolve in response to its environment. The Forbidden Forest had significantly enhanced the dragon's capabilities. John learned from Hagrid about the dragon's antics since its arrival in the forest. Hagrid, who often took students on detention patrols through the forest, recounted how the dragon playfully tormented them, leading them to believe they had encountered a monstrous creature. Its mischievous behavior and the spectacle of it flaunting its golden scales had even led Hogwarts to issue a bounty for the capture of this golden menace. Astoria, too, was aware of the dragon's identity, but was too embarrassed to disclose it. Listening to Hagrid's account, the dragon stood proudly, hands on hips, displaying no remorse for its actions. Its arrogance reminded John of a young Malfoy. Hagrid mentioned other creatures in the forest that had been disturbed by the dragon, including an incident where it was outsmarted by an animal named Wei, thanks to a necklace that John had given, which concealed its presence from the dragon. The dragon's behavior had become so problematic that even Professor Slughorn considered expelling it from the forest. John, feeling a parental responsibility, earnestly advised the dragon to behave and offered to introduce it to a friend who could match its energy and penchant for mischief. Peeves, the poltergeist known for his pranks, encountered a mysterious black line that dragged him to John. Initially fearing retribution for past offenses, Peeves was surprised when John proposed he partner with the dragon for pranks. Peeves, recognizing the dragon's potential for causing trouble, was both shocked and intrigued by the prospect of a new partner in mischief. This unlikely alliance between Peeves and the dragon promised to bring a new level of chaos to Hogwarts, challenging both students and faculty alike. John's intervention not only aimed to provide the dragon with a suitable companion, but also to channel its boundless energy into less harmful avenues, albeit through the dubious means of partnering with Hogwarts' most notorious troublemaker. Shining with mischief, he approached, removed his hat, and saluted. Peeves is honored to pay his respects to the nuisance. Xiaolong waved dismissively, hands on his hips, exuding an air of defiance. Such behavior from Peeves was rare, reserved only for those at the top of his most hated list. It was unfortunate that Malfoy wasn't a ghost. He would have made an excellent partner in pranks. However, Xiaolong's presence suggested to Peeves that the students were in for a series of unfortunate events in the future. John had managed to find a new companion for Xiaolong in Peeves. Although the poltergeist was known for his mischief, he harbored no intentions of causing harm to Hogwarts. With the individual competition looming in the afternoon, John made his way to the field to observe the proceedings. Chapter 826, Individual Competition, Separation. In the afternoon, the competition was set to test the participants' knowledge of magic, featuring both a magic knowledge reserve competition and an individual competition. Each school was represented by a single participant, making this a critical event to assess each individual's knowledge and ability. Wagadu chose Tubbo, known for his ability to transform into an elephant, while Hogwarts was represented by Astoria. The significance of this competition was immense, as the combined scores from this and the team games would crown the ultimate victor of the Magic Knowledge Reserve game. Beyond the prestige of winning, the competition was broadcast throughout the magical world, offering a significant boost in popularity for the students involved. This event promised to be even more engaging than the previous Triwizard Tournament. Professor McGonagall, esteemed for her fairness and integrity, served as the examiner. Her reputation for impartiality reassured all that she would neither favor her own students nor unduly challenge those from other schools. The competition kicked off with a bang, with Wagadu taking an early lead by securing the right to answer the first question, earning 5 points and solidifying their position at the top. As the competition progressed, other students eagerly participated, but Astoria adopted a different strategy. She chose to listen carefully rather than compete for questions right away. This patience paid off when, after 40 questions, a defense against the dark arts question came up, presenting Astoria with her chance to shine. With most students having expended their energy in earlier rounds, their accuracy had diminished. Astoria, however, was still in prime condition and began to dominate the answering phase, her responses nearly flawless. Initially lagging behind, Hogwarts made a remarkable comeback as Astoria leveraged her strategic advantage, propelling the school from last to second place. Wagadu noticed this shift and adjusted their strategy accordingly, regaining their precision in answering. The competition intensified, with the scores of the leading schools neck and neck. In the final stretch, a student from Banade mistakenly answered a question, opening the door for the Tarot Magic Vocational and Technical School to climb to third place, thanks to Lee Area's decisive answer. The last 9 questions, increasing in difficulty, challenged even the professor's level of knowledge. John, observing the competition, mused that the alchemy department might have an edge in answering these challenging questions. As the competition neared its end, Hogwarts and Wagadu were tied for the lead, with the Tarot School trailing by just 5 points. The tension was palpable as students from all 10 magic schools anxiously awaited the final question, some visibly drained from the intense competition. Professor McGonagall then posed the last question: which magic can help when you choke on food? Sparks flew towards the clock as students rushed to answer. Amid the tense atmosphere, Astoria's spark hit its mark. Taking a deep breath, she confidently answered, "Enkexiao." Correct answer, 5 points, announced Professor McGonagall, marking a decisive moment in the competition. At Hogwarts, 5 beautiful golden gems cascaded from the hourglass, marking a triumphant moment. In the Magical Knowledge Reserve competition, Hogwarts had emerged victorious, securing first place. The students, brimming with excitement, embraced each other. Unlike the dazzling magic attacks typical of other contests, this competition thrived on the thrill of vying for the chance to answer questions and showcase a grand knowledge of magic. Broadcasted on television, the event subtly educated the wizarding community, its impact rivaling that of a traditional lesson. The Magic Skills Application competition, slated for December, promised even more excitement. It would encompass a variety of subjects, including alchemy, potions, and defense against the dark arts. As the D.A.'s competition concluded, John, with a smile, turned to Slughorn and remarked, "What a game!" "Thanks for the compliment," Slughorn responded, his smile wide with satisfaction. Today's victory was particularly sweet for him. Not only had he earned praise from John, the Witch King, but he had also led Hogwarts to win the first game of the School League. This championship held more prestige than the previous Goblet of Fire, a testament to Slughorn's leadership and the absence of any deceit. Slughorn reflected on Astoria's performance in the final stage. Her strategic decision to forgo the opportunity to answer 40 questions earlier in the game had allowed her to make a significant comeback later. Her decisiveness made Slughorn regret not inviting her to join his slug club upon her arrival at the school. As the game wrapped up, John honored his promise. Stopping at the gates of Hogwarts, he advised Slughorn, "To address the vampire curse, we must tackle not just the curse itself, but also its origin. Their curses stem from killing loved ones. That's where you should start." This advice was John's way of preemptively addressing potential issues that Xiaolong might cause in the future. Unaware that John had introduced a dragon into Hogwarts, Slughorn pondered the advice. As a master potion maker, Slughorn was among the best. With a bit of guidance, he could make significant strides. His contributions to the wizarding world, though perhaps less conspicuous than Dumbledore's, were equally impactful. In terms of teaching, he could certainly be considered more of a professor than Dumbledore. John was already contemplating how to further benefit from Slughorn's expertise after his retirement. The knowledge and pedagogical skills Slughorn possessed could greatly benefit the wizarding world's education system, much like Dumbledore's contributions. After bidding farewell to Slughorn, John observed Fang, who excitedly chased after Tom, maintaining the lively atmosphere. Hagrid, unaware of the situation, simply noticed that Fang seemed happier. Tom, having brought dog food for Yaya, received a large piece of meat in return, which Yaya had taken from Hagrid's dinner. Hagrid, enjoying his romantic candlelit dinner, was puzzled by the missing steak. The two dogs, showing affection for each other, were reluctant to part ways. John then opened the teleportation channel, stepping inside and waiting for Tom. Despite his reluctance to leave, Tom would not abandon his master. He jumped into the passage, bidding farewell to Yaya. The passage closed behind them, marking the separation of the two dogs. Chapter 827. Harry, after becoming an Auror. A chilling wind swept through the rapidly developing wizarding city. Life as an Auror had granted Harry a newfound independence. Unlike the Weasleys, Sirius Black had chosen not to relocate, preferring the solitude of the old Black House nestled within the Muggle world. Now, as an Auror for the Ministry of Magic in the United Kingdom, Harry had embraced his responsibilities with vigor. "Sirius," Harry called out, adjusting his tie in front of the mirror. He raised his voice, ensuring it carried down the corridor of the ancient house. "I'm heading to Birmingham to investigate a case. I might be there for a few days." "What?" Sirius, engaged in a game of wizard chess on the first floor, looked up in surprise. With a playful tone, he teased, "I'd be happier if you were going on a date with the Weasley's little lioness." "Ginny?" The mention of the red-haired girl brought a smile to Harry's face, her image vivid in his mind. "Yes, you like her, don't you?" Sirius, having been quite the heartthrob during his school days, understood these feelings all too well. "Every time you mention her, you remind me of James talking about Lily." "Okay," Harry conceded, making his way downstairs, his suit fitting him perfectly compared to the previous year. Clutching his briefcase, he admitted, "I'll give it a shot, though I'm not sure if she feels the same about me." "Don't be silly, kid," Sirius responded, finishing his chess game and standing up to place a reassuring hand on Harry's shoulder. "You're Harry Potter. Next year you'll be the youngest Auror director. Why wouldn't Ginny be attracted to you?" Harry appreciated Sirius's confidence in him, but remained modest. "Maybe Ginny has someone else in mind." Sirius laughed heartily, clapping Harry on the shoulder before turning to leave. "Then, it's time for me to head out." Confused, Harry asked, "Where are you going?" "To experience life," Sirius winked. "I can't stay cooped up in this house forever, especially now that Creature is here to look after things." Sirius, no longer a fugitive and with Voldemort gone, felt no need to hide. "I'll tell Creature to watch the door," he said, opening it and gesturing for Harry to proceed. "I might explore the Muggle world for a bit. Times are changing, and we need to adapt." Sirius was intrigued by the idea of visiting a Muggle school, having never truly experienced the Muggle world despite his pureblood heritage. His charming appearance and eccentric personality were sure to draw attention, particularly from those he encountered. As Harry watched his godfather walk away, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life they shared. A recent postcard from the Dursleys mentioned Dudley's success in university boxing, a reminder that Muggle achievements were not to be underestimated. Glancing at his watch, Harry realized it was time to depart for Birmingham. Opting for a Muggle approach, he made his way to the station and purchased a ticket. In Birmingham, the unification of the magical world under the Witch King had not eradicated crime. Illegal wizards often hid within the Muggle world, using magic for nefarious purposes. Aurors like Harry were tasked with tracking down these rogue wizards and bringing them to justice. Recognized for his talent by legendaries and Dumbledore himself, Harry had become one of the most distinguished figures in the magical community, a testament to his dedication and skill. Upon exiting the station, Harry glanced at his watch. Wizards certainly have an edge when it comes to traveling. He pressed a button on the side of his watch, causing the face to pop open and the minute hand to transform into a pointer. With his briefcase in hand, he walked into a deserted alley, pulled out his wand, and with a swift wave, vanished, only to reappear on a rooftop moments later. He raised his watch to his eye, scanning the surrounding houses through the glass as if it were a magnifying lens. There's hardly any magical reaction. According to reports, a wizard cast an explosive spell in a company's sewer, resulting in a cracked ground, he mused, focusing on the road below where the cracks were magnified by his watch. Following the cracks, he spotted a sewer manhole cover. Harry apparated to a nearby bakery, emerging as if he were just another customer. With a wave of his wand, he cast a confusion spell, rendering himself invisible to the bystanders. He lifted the manhole cover and descended into the sewer, immediately wrinkling his nose at the smell of stagnant water. From his briefcase, he retrieved a slimy, slug-like creature and tossed it onto the ground. With another wave of his wand, he commanded, "Show me the way." The slime began to pulse and produce the sound of footsteps, guiding Harry through the sewer. He followed cautiously, wand at the ready. As the sounds of the footsteps diminished, they abruptly stopped at a junction extending in all directions. Peering around, Harry spotted something moving in the darkness. Devil's Snare? He recognized it instantly, having encountered it during his first year at Hogwarts. Devil's Snare doesn't naturally grow in such environments. It must have been deliberately placed there. Harry was well versed in its weaknesses, but he needed to draw out whoever was behind this without raising alarm. After a moment's thought, Harry devised a plan. He took an envelope from his briefcase and sent it flying towards the Devil's Snare. The envelope emitted a sound similar to a howler, attracting attention. Whispers filled the air, barely audible. The Devil's Snare stirred, and behind it, a wizard appeared, investigating the letter and the discarded slime. Confused, he prodded the slime with his wand, only for Harry to shout, "Expelliarmus!" The slime exploded into a sticky liquid, ensnaring the wizard as a curved red light forced his wand from his grasp. Harry caught the wand, illuminating the area with a light that repelled the Devil's Snare. He faced the wizard, declaring, "You're under arrest, Mr. Criminal." "Auror?" The wizard glared at Harry, trapped in the slime, incredulous. "How did you find me?" "Your hiding spot was clever, but your magic was lacking," Harry retorted, throwing a super fluorescent ball of light to keep the Devil's Snare at bay. He retrieved the letter, adding, "Curiosity can be dangerous." He then handcuffed the wizard, ensuring there was no escape. Harry escorted the wizard to the British Ministry of Magic, where he was met with admiration from the Aurors. "You completed a 5-day task in just 1 day," they remarked, casting admiring glances at the newcomer. Harry merely smiled, his thoughts already on how to invite Ginny out. He placed his briefcase down for inspection by someone from the Auror office. "This newly developed trap is quite effective," Harry remarked, looking up to see Ron approaching, a smile spreading across his face. "Ron," he greeted his friend warmly. Ron, a member of the Auror training class, often visited the office to familiarize himself with the environment. Seeing Harry, he couldn't hide his envy. "Completed another mission, did you?" "Good luck," Harry replied, his success a testament to both his skill and a bit of fortune. "I won't be able to become a regular employee until next year," Ron sighed, expressing his frustration. He continued, "Currently, I'm memorizing the Auror manual and handling some miscellaneous tasks in the office." "Where's Hermione?" Ron inquired, glancing tentatively at the elevator behind Harry. "I didn't see her on the 4th floor today." Ron hadn't given up hope, and neither had Harry. "She might be organizing something with the elves," Harry suggested, considering the possibilities. Compared to his two friends, Ron was still catching up, being a student. Unlike them, Harry wasn't much interested in socializing at the moment and seized the opportunity to ask, "Is Ginny at home?" "She's not," Ron replied, his disappointment evident. The Quidditch team noticed her talent and invited her for a tryout. Harry's smile, which had brightened at the thought of inviting Ginny, dimmed at the news. With no other options, the two disheartened brothers settled for a spot in the Ministry of Magic to eat their cold sandwiches. As they ate, their attention was drawn to the TV. The Prophet Channel was broadcasting a replay of the Magic Knowledge Reserve competition. "Her Hermione would really enjoy this," Ron remarked, knowing her interest in the game. Harry agreed, reflecting on the mundane aspects of an Auror's day. Chapter 828, A Lively Wedding. More than a month had passed since the Wizarding City opened its doors. Wizards had begun to acclimate to this new place. The Albatross train, bridging the gap between the Muggle world and the Wizarding City, was now operational. Wizards disembarked, eager to explore the city's offerings. While some chose to remain in the Muggle world, making it their home, they too would visit the bustling Wizarding City in their leisure time. Silver Cross Hospital was bustling with activity, having surpassed St. Mungo's in popularity. St. Mungo's continued its operations in the Muggle world, treating wizards, while Silver Cross Hospital relocated to the Wizarding City alongside Nocturne Alley. It became the go-to medical examination center for many wizards in the city. The hospital had expanded significantly, attracting many of this year's graduates to its workforce. Nocturne Alley, along with Diagon Alley, thrived in the area outside the east gate of the Wizarding City. The Wizarding residences, nestled along the former Wizarding areas, saw little change in their way of life. At Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes, the fireworks were completely sold out for the day. Inside Silver Cross Hospital, Percy and Penello were engrossed in reviewing thick physical examination forms. Their expressions were serious, as if they were deciphering ancient texts. After reviewing, they would discuss everything from dietary improvements to shampoo changes with great enthusiasm. George and Fred, however, were far from calm. "Please, you're getting married, not undergoing an autopsy," Fred remarked, exasperated by their concern over trivial matters like shampoo selection and dietary choices. George chimed in, "You should be focusing on selecting wedding attire, not poring over medical forms." Percy, ever the serious one, replied, "It's important to ensure we're fully aware of each other's health conditions." Penello, soon to be their sister-in-law, added, "This way, we can be mindful of each other's needs and minimize conflicts in our married life." Their earnestness was met with a mix of amusement and disbelief. Fred, embracing his pregnant wife Angelina, expressed his relief that she hadn't been subjected to such scrutiny. Angelina, however, playfully suggested it might be necessary, much to Fred's dismay. George made a mental note to keep this practice a secret from his girlfriend, fearing he might be the next target. The Lupin family, with their children in tow, were also at the hospital for a routine checkup. "The werewolf office provides medical insurance," Lupin shared with a smile, emphasizing the importance of family safety. Fred, reminiscing about Lupin's days as their favorite teacher, was taken aback by his pragmatic approach. Lupin, learning of Percy's upcoming wedding, expressed his support and shared that many in the werewolf community were also embracing married life, appreciating the stability it brought. He mentioned Moody, the legendary Auror, who remained vigilant against potential threats from dark wizards, despite Voldemort's defeat. Moody's dedication to training Aurors, including Ron, was both admirable and a source of amusement for George. As Percy and Penello concluded their health discussions, the twins were determined to make their wedding an unforgettable celebration. With Percy's wedding set for December, just a few days away, they were busy planning something spectacular. Meanwhile, Ginny's trial with the Holyhead Harpies was going well, but her exceptional talent posed a dilemma. She was skilled enough to play in two positions. Chaser Cherry, Ginny ultimately chose the position of Chaser, one she was familiar with, fulfilling her aspirations. Harry, seizing the moment, mustered the courage to ask Ginny out, an invitation from the future Auror star himself. Meanwhile, Hermione had been promoted during her last office departure, transitioning from her initial role in the House Elf Relocation Office to the Department of International Magical Cooperation. Given her background and capabilities, she was poised for success in this new environment. Observing the widening gap between himself and Hermione, Ron committed to working harder, determined to bridge the distance between them. John slowly opened his eyes, noting the extended duration of his stay in the Thought Palace this time. A week had elapsed since he entered, a place where one could easily lose track of time. John understood the importance of vigilance within the palace, as it hinged on his consciousness to envelop the entire world. His observations revealed that other countries remained wary of wizards, a stance he found understandable given even the United Kingdom, a supposed ally of the Magic Kingdom, engaged in covert actions against them. The issue of passports was nearing resolution, promising wizards freedom of movement across the globe. As the Witch King, John continued to drive global developments, maintaining an air of mystery among Muggles, with Mycroft being the sole individual privy to his true identity. The U.S. president and diplomats remained in the dark about the Witch King's origins and identity, further cementing his enigmatic status among both Muggles and wizards. After stretching and standing up, John shook off the physical toll of his prolonged stay in the Thought Palace. His resilience and psychic magic had fortunately sustained him. "I thought it would be December when I woke up, and it looks like I'll be in time for Percy's wedding," he mused. Observing the wizarding city, he noted the persistence of owl snack shop merchants, especially towards Basil, who attracted small dried fish offerings. Riddle, on the other hand, paid no heed to the snacks, while Basil was revered by passing owls as the elder sister of the wizard city. Zuowu's exploration of the newly constructed beach and subsequent island hopping intrigued John, as did Amohan's interactions with wizards and Charmanders in the foggy gathering places. As December arrived, the Weasley twins sprang into action for Percy's wedding. Percy was coerced into a new outfit, with George applying an excessive amount of hairspray to his hair. Penelo, under the guidance of Angelina and Ginny, underwent a transformation, discarding her glasses for a beautiful dress and achieving silky smooth hair after several washes. Penelo's parents also experienced a first, taking the albatross to obtain wizard relative certificates, marking a significant moment for the family. As a Muggle, my father was as amazed by this place as a beggar would be upon entering a palace. "Are we still in Europe?" Mr. Cravat inquired, his curiosity piqued by the enchanting surroundings. His wife, Mrs. Cravat, was also experiencing this magical setting for the first time. However, being a witch, she adapted to the wonders around her more swiftly than her husband. The Weasleys, known for their large and welcoming family, were preparing for a grand wedding. Many guests were expected, and the twins, who were in charge of planning the event, would have liked to invite the Cravats' relatives as well, if circumstances had permitted. The sky above was adorned with Percy's oversized balloons and cartoon balloons depicting Penelope and Percy in a loving embrace, a sight that made Percy question his decision to let the mischievous twin brothers plan his wedding. When the Weasley relatives arrived, Aunt Muriel resumed her usual habit of bossing everyone around. Fred, seizing the opportunity, gave her a new product from their store. It resembled a cake, but had the effect of rendering her speechless for half an hour. The relief among the guests was palpable, as everyone enjoyed a brief respite from Aunt Muriel's commands. The wedding balloons even reached the roof of the Lovegoods house, where Luna, ever the adventurer, caught a balloon and floated over. A mountain of cream, brought in by balloons, became the centerpiece, with fireworks bursting in the air to celebrate Percy and Penelope's union. George, donning the attire of an officiant, began the ceremony with solemnity, but it wasn't long before the twins' inherent playfulness emerged. John, also present at the wedding, watched as the twins orchestrated a spectacle, causing a mountain of butter to explode and cover the entire celebration in white cream. He remained the only one unscathed, having anticipated the twins' prank. This disappointed the twins, who had hoped to involve John and Percy in a ballroom dance, turning two of the most powerful figures in the magical kingdom into mere puppets for their amusement. Despite Aunt Muriel's anger, the laughter continued unabated. accompanied by the music of the invited band, the Weird Sisters. The celebration stretched on, filled with joy and unforgettable moments. Chapter 829. The First Snow in the Wizarding City. The residents of the Wizarding City thought it was just another snowfall. However, this snow was creamy, fragrant, and sweet. The Weasley twins, known for their eccentric ideas, had caused a butter mountain to explode, transforming it into the first snowfall the Wizarding City had ever seen. This unusual snowfall brought creamy snowflakes down upon the city, much to the delight and surprise of the wizards above the clouds. Unfortunately, the owls didn't share in the joy. With butter sticking to their feathers, several of them struggled to fly, with a few even falling from the sky. The situation quickly escalated as the substantial mountain of butter caused chaos among the wizards. Screams filled the air as people hid in their houses, fearing that the streets would become creamy and slippery by the next day. John, tasked with resolving the aftermath, raised his wand and performed a transfiguration spell. A white light emanated from his wand, covering the Wizarding City. The falling butter transformed into ice and then into slowly falling snowflakes. What started as a prank from the Weasley twins turned into a magical gift from the Witch King, marking the first snowfall in the Wizarding City. With snowflakes gently falling, the wizarding community began to anticipate the upcoming Christmas season. Amidst this magical snowfall, Percy and Penelope celebrated their love by becoming husband and wife. The usually serious couple exchanged rings with smiles on their faces. Special guests like Fleur and Daphne, the future Wizard Queen of the Sea, attended the wedding to offer their best wishes. The ceremony concluded amidst a beautiful blend of flowers and snowflakes, leaving Mrs. Weasley in tears of joy at her son's wedding. Mr. Weasley, proud of Percy's accomplishments, acknowledged his son as the family's mainstay. The joyous day ended with John smiling and applauding as he bid farewell to the newlyweds. Meanwhile, Daphne received a holiday from Mr. Greengrass, allowing her to stay in the Wizarding City for a while longer. Fleur, however, had obligations to her French family and had to maintain her noble image in the magical world. The first week of December saw the kickoff of the first friendly Quidditch match in the Wizarding City. John, eager to witness the event, watched as Malfoy displayed his usual arrogance on the pitch. Despite the Silver Wolf Roaring Club's determination, Malfoy secured the Golden Snitch, leading Puddlemere United to a decisive victory. Tang Mi, disappointed by his team's performance, but irritated by Malfoy's taunts, had to restrain himself from retaliating with magic. This match not only made the Silver Wolf Roaring Club famous for their fierce spirit, but also set the stage for a future classic showdown with Puddlemere United. As the School League's second game approached, Damo Alex's visit became the talk of the town. The master-disciple meeting was lively, with Slughorn laughing heartily. Damo Alex, while cordially greeting his teacher, subtly reminded him of the progress on the vampire curse. Slughorn, amused, responded playfully, acknowledging Damo Alex's indirect nudge to expedite his research. As the vice president of the International Academy of Magical Science and Technology, Damo Alex's presence underscored the importance of their ongoing projects and the anticipation of their outcomes. As the head of the potions department, it was only logical for Slughorn to be involved in the magical skills application competition. However, he soon found himself regretting this decision. The competition was thrilling, featuring participants from Hogwarts, including Astoria and a Hufflepuff student who excelled in alchemy and potion-making, respectively. In the alchemy segment, the Hufflepuff competitor faltered, securing only fourth place, while a student from Beauxbatons took the lead, showcasing their prowess in the field. Despite Astoria's considerable talent in potion-making, she was outperformed by students from Wagdu and Mesmer, finishing in third place. However, she redeemed herself in the Defense Against the Dark Arts category, leveraging her extensive knowledge of magical creatures, courtesy of her affiliation with the Star Club, to clinch first place, leaving a Durmstrang student in second. The highlight was the duel match, where Astoria outshone competitors from 10 schools, securing first place and drawing significant attention. Her success marked a moment of pride for the Society of Stars and her father, Mr. Greengrass, who watched the competition with a beaming smile that only waned upon noticing another spectator with platinum blonde hair. As Christmas approached, Johnny Silverhand gained autonomy, alleviating John's concerns about the holiday season. The wizarding city was blanketed in snow, transforming the landscape into a winter wonderland, with the magic tower itself enveloped in a cool white layer. Unlike dogs, owls have distinct preferences. Tom enjoyed the indoors, while Basil preferred the outdoors. As the year drew to a close, Basil stood atop the magic tower, his feathers dusted with snowflakes, which Riddle, flying beside him, gently swept away. Meanwhile, Tom felt neglected as the two owls engaged in their playful chase around the tower. Inside, the little golden man and Helmer mirrored John's cross-legged posture. Helmer, unable to remain still for long, sought out Tom to embark on adventures as a dog knight. Hector, however, remained determined to maintain his posture, only moving when he noticed John's closed eyes, forcing him to continue sitting in meditation. John's consciousness delved into a realm of thought, where he observed the Wick household. Watson, having recovered from his hospital stay, now focused on his daily duty of picking up his daughter from school. With Christmas nearing, Watson revealed the gift he had prepared, a little white bear, a choice that left Mrs. Betty Wick bemused by her husband's peculiar fascination. Suddenly, Mrs. Wick sensed something amiss and turned her gaze towards the attic stairs, her eyes darkening ominously. John, descending from the attic, invisibly soothed his mother, causing the darkness in her eyes to fade. "John?" Watson looked around in confusion, questioning his son's presence. Mrs. Wick felt a connection, sensing her child's watchful eyes within their home. Watson, undeterred, playfully warned John against peeking at his Christmas gift, eliciting a silent response from John, who marveled at his father's unwavering belief in his presence. Outside, John's consciousness observed the agents monitoring the house, a testament to the ongoing intrigue surrounding the Wick family. Around the clock, they continued their vigilant watch. Ariana was at school, and John had decided to check on her. He hoped that Ariana would adapt to life at a Muggle school. As his thoughts wandered, Watson remained, engaging in a one-sided conversation with the sofa, urging John to come home for Christmas this year. Mrs. Wick observed quietly, not revealing anything as she listened to her husband's half-hour-long monologue. Chapter 830. The Lady of the Wick Family Westminster School, one of the oldest and most prestigious independent schools in the UK, has long been regarded as a sacred place of learning by most British people. Ranking among the top 10 schools in the country, it has produced British Prime Ministers and Nobel Prize winners, earning its reputation as the cradle of the elite and a stepping stone to the upper class. Over time, the school, originally admitting only boys, had to evolve, yet it remains one of the best educational institutions. Ariana Wick's arrival as a transfer student in her school uniform stirred the quiet waters of Westminster. Despite the school's resistance to bending its rules, sometimes it had to yield to the influence of high-ranking officials. Miss Wick, who secured her place through connections, was shrouded in mystery. The students, far from being naive, possessed mature minds owned by an elite education system. They were adept at navigating social circles, seeking connections that would benefit their future. Ariana's striking appearance and reserved demeanor immediately caught the attention of her peers. "Wick? Is it that Wick?" whispered a boy with brown hair, his curiosity piqued by her last name. His friend, clueless, prompted him to explain. With a look of fear, the brown-haired boy spoke of the Underground President, a title that bewildered his peers despite their maturity. He shared tales of a figure who had unified London's underworld in less than 2 months, a man whose adversaries met grisly ends in the Thames River. This figure, he claimed, wielded influence that even reached the government's cabinet. The students' perception of Ariana shifted dramatically upon hearing these stories. Any initial interest in the new transfer student was replaced by a cautious distance, marking her as someone to be wary of. In London, the Wick surname was synonymous with power and danger, a fact that quickly became the talk of the school. As Ariana walked through the campus, she noticed the change in her classmates' behavior. Even a boy who had greeted her warmly the day before now fled at her sight. Her innocent appearance did little to dispel the aura of caution that now surrounded her. "Hello, beautiful lady," greeted a man, appearing before Ariana with a charming smile and a tip of his hat. I wonder if you could help me find the principal." His black hair and mischievous smile reminded Ariana of a villain from a movie, a man who effortlessly blended charm with danger. This man was Sirius Black, who had chosen to attend classes at Westminster. Unbeknownst to him, Ariana was the cherished daughter of the man who had nearly ended his life. Their meeting was the beginning of an unlikely connection between Dumbledore's former daughter and the rebellious son of the Black family. As the story of Ariana Wick spread through the school, John observed the students' reactions, noting the mix of curiosity and apprehension that followed her. The legacy of the Wick family had cast a long shadow, one that Ariana would navigate in her new environment. John couldn't help but reflect on his sister's situation at school. He was taken aback to learn that Ariana's most formidable adversary wasn't a fellow student, but their own father. The fear of the underground president was so pervasive that students steered clear of Ariana, worried they might end up floating in the Thames if they got too close. John found it ironic, considering the nefarious deeds attributed to his father were actually the handiwork of his uncle. In his quest to find Ariana, John learned she had encountered Sirius. It was their first meeting, and neither knew the other. However, Ariana, recognizing Sirius as an actor, decided to play a prank on him, mimicking a villain's signature killing gesture from a movie. Sirius was at a loss on how to deal with her antics. Suddenly, Ariana's attention shifted. She stared intently in one direction, though Sirius, whom she referred to as Shoutan Wolfstar, saw nothing there. With a bright smile, she exclaimed, "Brother," and ran off. Sirius, unable to see John, was puzzled by her reaction. John was pleasantly surprised that Ariana could see him, wondering if their father was the only one at home who couldn't. Unlike Mrs. Wick, who was unaware of his presence, Ariana not only sensed him, but also saw him. John surmised that Ariana's ability to perceive him might be due to the inherent power of obscurials in recognizing other magical entities. With a smile and a wave to Ariana, John's consciousness left the Palace of Thought, leaving Ariana surprised at his sudden disappearance. Back in the Magic Tower, John observed Hector, who had been pretending to meditate but was clearly distracted by Helmer riding a dog. John gave Hector permission to join them, and the boy ran off excitedly. Meanwhile, the owl that had flown out returned, its black feathers dotted with snowflakes. Basil, another owl, helped to shake off the snow. In gratitude, Riddle, the first owl, affectionately nuzzled Basil's head, a gesture that filled Basil with pride. Tom, with Helmer on his back, approached Basil without caution and was promptly rebuffed. Startled, Hector halted, turned around, and sought refuge behind a pillar. Helmer and Tom tumbled down the stairs of the Magic Tower, coming to a stop at the bottom, where they lay in a heap, reevaluating their choices. John felt a pang of sympathy, but chose not to intervene, reasoning that they had brought it upon themselves by provoking Basil. John then focused on the Slytherin locket he wore, which housed the power to bewilder. Opening the locket, he released the black resurrection stone it contained. Holding the Elder Wand in his other hand, he gazed at the two Deathly Hallows, lost in thought about their significance and the power they represented. Chapter 831, Thoughts on the Deathly Hallows. The Deathly Hallows are central to the entire collection of adventure stories in the mysterious magical world. The Elder Wand enhances one's magical abilities significantly. The Resurrection Stone, when combined with the Philosopher's Stone, has the power to reclaim souls from the clutches of death. The Invisibility Cloak is the only item John has yet to acquire. In his view, its utility seemed minimal. However, to complete the collection of the Deathly Hallows, the Invisibility Cloak is an essential threshold that cannot be overlooked. Upon reflection, the most valuable of these items appears to be the Invisibility Cloak, which was personally carried by the God of Death. The Elder Wand was merely a branch that Death broke off, and the Resurrection Stone was a stone picked from the riverbed. In contrast, the Invisibility Cloak was taken from Death's own body, albeit unwillingly. The God of Death traverses the boundary between the netherworld and reality, accessible only to those on the brink of death. The God of Death that John has encountered may not be found in this realm of confusion. Invisibility Cloak? John pondered, looking at the two treasures before him. Each could incite a bloody conflict, Yet the invisibility cloak's transfer has always been peaceful. Harry received it from Dumbledore, who had obtained it from the Potter family's heirlooms. This peaceful transition, compared to the tumultuous history of the Elder Wand and the tragic curse of the Resurrection Stone, makes the invisibility cloak seem particularly benign. The humility of a third child, John mused, placing the Resurrection Stone back into Slytherin's locket. Interestingly, Slytherin and the Peverell family are connected through marriage, giving rise to the Gaunt family. The Gaunt family used these two treasures as symbols of their pure-blood lineage. Unfortunately, they failed to understand their true power and, due to Voldemort, transformed them into Horcruxes. John's intervention restored these items to their original state, positioning him as the heir to both legacies. Holding the Elder Wand, John felt its inherent desire for conquest and victory. The Elder Wand, victorious in every battle, seeks only a worthy victor. This trait aligns with the deceptive nature of the god of death. Even as a gift, the wand harbors many hidden complications. John resisted its call to battle and considered integrating the Elder Wand into the throne of the Eternal Witch King. Sensing John's thoughts, the wand, previously eager for victory, became still. Appreciating its newfound calm, John decided to store the Elder Wand away. The 3 Deathly Hallows and his conversation with Grindelwald came to mind. Grindelwald aspired to master death by collecting the Deathly Hallows. While John doubted the feasibility of becoming the master of death, possessing the 3 items could yield unforeseen benefits. Beyond the quest for mastery over death, acquiring these treasures was an end in itself. The invisibility cloak remained in Harry's possession, accessible to John should he choose to claim it. However, as the Witch King, the embodiment of justice in the magical world, John is bound by the very order he upholds. Disregarding these principles could plunge the wizarding world back into chaos. An equitable exchange was necessary to acquire the invisibility cloak from Harry. Adherence to the rules and fair trade were paramount. Standing at the edge, John extended his palm, catching snowflakes. He reminisced about the recent visions of families yearning for a Christmas reunion. Perhaps, celebrating Christmas this year wouldn't be such a bad idea. He hadn't yet prepared a gift for Ariana. "I hope Christmas goes a little slower this year," he whispered, lost in thought. The snowflakes resting in his hands did not melt, a testament to the fact that his body temperature had lost the warmth typical of a normal person. Whether he exhaled hot or cold breath, it was hard to tell as he blew the snowflakes from his palms, watching them fall silently to the ground. Nearby, Basil, his owl, shifted on its perch before taking flight, its wings cutting through the sky as it went to survey the area. For now, the Wizarding City did not require John's intervention. Initially, there was unity, but as time passed, the inevitable issues of crime and bullying began to surface, fueled by differences in strength, personality, and ambition. Without suppressing all forms of willpower, these were challenges that needed addressing. This period marked John's last holiday before the eagerly anticipated School League, highlighted by the Star Cup in February. 10 schools were set to compete in a Quidditch match, an event that promised to be lengthy and was to be broadcasted on TV. There was speculation about whether Malfoy, attending as a guest, would draw the usual animosity towards himself. Puddlemere United had shown commendable performance in Malfoy's absence, sparking discussions on whether Malfoy would seek revenge for past slights or face humiliation once again. With tickets and merchandise already on sale, the league was a lucrative opportunity for Puddlemere United, especially in the current Quidditch climate, where notoriety could be as valuable as skill. Malfoy's knack for attracting disdain was undeniably a boon, making the decision not to sell him a wise one. His obliviousness to financial matters, despite his wealthy background, was a point of interest. If Handin Puddlemere was astute, he would ensure Malfoy received favorable treatment and compensation to prevent any potential fallout. As John had predicted, Quidditch was evolving. The werewolf community, known for its favorable treatment, faced challenges with their Silver Wolf Roar Club being heavily criticized, stirring envy among others. The werewolves, determined not to disappoint, welcomed Tang Mi warmly every visit, despite the looming threat of backlash if their performance didn't improve. With the Junior Wizard Tournament concluded, the Silver Wolf Roar Club looked to next year for redemption, though they managed to secure a spot in the Christmas Day Quidditch exhibition, much to the delight of their supporters. The rivalry between Nocturne Alley and Diagon Alley was well known, with the Christmas exhibition match serving as a means to settle their differences. This tradition had become a highlight in the Wizarding City, attracting wizards worldwide. Some, seeking quieter lives, ventured to new lands, like the Lovegood family, who settled atop a hill in a boot-shaped house, now a local landmark. Luna Lovegood made a new friend in Newt Scamander, a magical zoologist with a keen interest in the scimitar-horned Snorlax, often visiting with his grandson to study the creature. Growing up, Newt found himself repeatedly falling in love with Luna, a girl who seemed to possess an elf-like charm. Even my grandson, who typically showed little interest in physical activities, became more active. Xenophilius, seeing an opportunity, invited Newt to participate in a new popular science program. On occasion, one could spot a group of elders seated on a boat in the midst of a wild lake, introducing the Kaaba. Newt speculated that this scimitar-horned creature could potentially grow as large as a poison-horned beast, a thought that prompted Luna to ponder how to prevent Mr. Corner from becoming too large to enter their house. She frequently corresponded with Ginny, who was undergoing training with her team, sharing her concerns with her best friend. Ginny, too, harbored her own set of worries, particularly about moving out of the burrow. She had matured into an independent and sensitive young woman, finding the family home increasingly uncomfortable. Coincidentally, Luna was also considering moving out, especially with the anticipation that Mr. Crescent Horns might outgrow a rhinoceros, necessitating a larger living space. The two quickly agreed on the idea of moving in together. Concerns about acquiring land were swiftly dismissed. In the Magic Kingdom, land was as abundant as a country teeming with kangaroos. Moreover, a new profession had emerged: treasure hunting. Some lands were known to contain rare ores or even sunken treasure chests. One wizard struck gold, quite literally, by unearthing a large gold nugget beneath his home's soil, which brought him considerable wealth. Luna harbored the quirky notion that they might also discover something valuable while constructing their new home. Despite observing the peculiar items Luna brought along, such as amulets and oak shields that seemed to constantly demand money, Ginny realized that Luna was probably not in dire need of funds. Luna even transported the ceiling of her room, which bore the names of her and her friends, encircled with the word "friends" engraved in bold letters. On moving day, Xenophilius was overcome with emotion, finding it difficult to part with his daughter. The curved horned creature, resembling a Snorlax, awkwardly carried a dozen bags and numerous boxes on its horns, resembling a small, mobile home. The prospect of the two girls living together brought a mix of worry and contemplation to both fathers. Chapter 832. Congratulations to Malfoy for missing the finals. This is the scene of a top Wizarding League game. I am your old friend, Ernie Macmillan. Today marks a historic day as the Appleby Arrows face off against the Ballycastle Bats. The East Quidditch pitch in the Wizarding City is bustling, with not a single seat left empty. However, what brings me even more joy is that Puddlemere United lost in the semifinals, falling to the Appleby Arrows by a mere 10 points and missing out on the final. It's a relief not to have to watch that annoying platinum blonde head zooming around the field anymore, flaunting his golden belt. Just thinking about it brings me joy. Heh! Oh, apologies, I must contain my excitement. Macmillan caught sight of the platinum blonde man in the audience wielding his wand and quickly moderated his tone. As usual, Macmillan's unique commentary style is well received by the wizarding community. Today's guest is the former seeker of the Holyhead Harpies, an all-witch Quidditch team. Despite ranking 5th in this year's league, they've managed to maintain their top-tier status. Let's get the game started. The Appleby Arrows have introduced a new batsman this year, significantly changing their style of play. They've moved away from decapitation tactics to focus on scoring. Yet, we cannot overlook the threat posed by last year's Best Seeker winner. Macmillan analyzed as the game kicked off. Malfoy, seething with anger, watched from the stands. His absence had cost Puddlemere United dearly, as they failed to accumulate enough points to reach the finals. This infuriated him. The team, wary of Malfoy's temper, endured his wrath silently. Malfoy was the only one present to watch the game, as his teammates were bedridden, exhausted from the coach's grueling double training sessions. As the saying goes, when you're in a bad mood, everything seems to annoy you. This proved true for Malfoy when he overheard a conversation from the seat next to him. "Great, we caught up. Look, it's Ruth, the famous seeker of the Holyhead Harpies. I wish Hermione could come too." Hearing a familiar voice, Malfoy's expression soured. He turned, his gaze a mix of sarcasm, disdain, and indifference. "Yo, isn't this Potter?" Malfoy sneered, reminding Harry of Snape. Ron, who accompanied Harry, felt a chill run down his spine. The tension was palpable as the trio faced off. Malfoy taunted, "Why, I thought you couldn't afford the tickets. Would you like my autograph?" "Shut up, Malfoy," Harry retorted, his frown deepening. "We're not interested in a third-rate signature." "That's right," Ron chimed in, proudly displaying his Appleby Arrows jersey. "You must be quite familiar with them, having been defeated by them twice." Malfoy's face darkened at the mention of his defeats. Had they not been in a public setting, a physical altercation might have ensued. Despite the thrilling match, their attention was solely on each other. Malfoy, a magnet for animosity, found himself unable to escape Harry's presence. The rivalry between the Auror and the Quidditch star mirrored their Hogwarts days, each keeping tally of their victories over the other. As Macmillan resumed his enthusiastic commentary, with Ms. Ruth offering occasional insights, the game stretched into the night. Under the starlit sky, the snitch became increasingly difficult to spot. The Quidditch pitch, now illuminated, set the stage for a memorable showdown. After a fierce battle, the Appleby Arrows managed to defend their winning streak into the second half of the night. Once the golden snitch was caught, the competition concluded. Malfoy departed with a scowl, likely foreshadowing a tough time ahead for his team members. Harry, noticing the sky darkening, decided to stay the night. He regretted that Ginny had moved out, still uncertain about the status of their relationship. Holding a beef burrito delivered by an owl, Ron opened his portion only to curse. "Damn it, the owl ate my takeout." Some owls, notorious for their greed, would occasionally eat the deliveries they were supposed to make. With no system in place for customer feedback on wizarding takeout, Ron had no choice but to chalk it up to bad luck. The Weasley family had long since embraced Harry as one of their own, never hesitating to offer him a place to stay, much like they did for Ron. The two of them, sharing a room once again, were reminiscent of their days at Hogwarts, with 2 beds in the same space. From the window of the burrow, they could see the wizarding city, its magical towers aglow against the night sky. Harry's bed, positioned near the window, allowed him a view of the solitary magic tower as he lay down. "When did we start drifting apart from John?" Harry suddenly asked. Ron, who had been on the verge of sleep, took a moment to think before responding. "It must have been around 3rd grade. We were still close friends in the 2nd grade. That was when we ventured into the Acromantula's lair together," Harry reminisced, gazing out at the magic tower. The mention of Hermione liking John stirred Ron from his attempt to sleep. Sitting up, he hesitantly replied, "That can't be, can it? She was John's best friend back then. Remember Slughorn's class?" Harry, with the insight of an Auror, recalled, "The love potion smells like something the drinker finds appealing." "Strawberry ice cream," Harry continued. "Hermione mentioned they bought it together during the holidays." His blunt honesty forced Ron to confront the painful truth that Hermione had harbored feelings for John long before. "But she's not with John," Ron stated, trying to find solace in that fact. "True, but that's because of us," Harry admitted, his gaze shifting away from the magic tower. They never saw each other again after that. The memories of what had transpired were still vivid in Harry's mind, making him ponder the depth of trust and friendship that once existed between John, Hermione, and themselves. "He ended up alone, becoming the greatest," Harry said, referring to John. Ron remained silent, both of them fully aware of the loneliness that accompanied the title of the Witch King. Harry, mentored by Dumbledore, understood that there might have been a time when his purpose was merely to serve as a contingency plan in the battle against Voldemort, should John falter. With Dumbledore's guidance, Harry had grown, learning to reflect on his past actions and decisions. If you had another chance, would you do it all over again? Harry pondered aloud, considering what his younger self might have done differently. As Harry, once hailed as a savior, observed John assuming that role, he realized the title brought not only honor, but also burdensome shackles. Ron, after a moment of hesitation, asked, "Do you think Hermione still has feelings for John?" "I don't know," Harry replied, shaking his head. Ron turned over, restless with thoughts of John and Hermione's past interactions. He recognized that unlike himself, John had always trusted Hermione implicitly. Reflecting on his own relationship with Hermione, filled with annual arguments, Ron realized they were an unlikely pair. Suddenly, Ron declared, "I've made a decision. I want to pursue her." Harry, caught off guard by the outburst, then understood Ron's resolve. "Are you chasing Hermione?" Ron asked with a fervent look in his eyes. She had just jumped onto Harry's bed. "I like her. I should know. It takes courage to admit that." "You like Hermione?" Harry was taken aback. "I've always seen you as a brother, and now you're telling me you have feelings for Hermione?" Ron's excitement was palpable. "You don't understand, Harry. I've had feelings for Hermione since the 6th grade, but I never had the courage to act on them." "You might be right. Perhaps Hermione had feelings for John, but that's all in the past now. I want to be there for Hermione, to be close to her," Ron declared with determination. Harry was momentarily lost in thought, the idea of accepting someone new into their close-knit circle unsettling him. But wait, Hermione was his best friend, not a maternal figure. How could he even entertain such a thought? As Harry was caught up in his whirlwind of thoughts, Ron's vigorous shaking made him dizzy. Ron's face seemed to twist and turn before his eyes, and suddenly the surroundings shifted. A throne appeared before him. "I didn't mean to disturb your sleep, Harry," came John's voice, pulling Harry back to reality. He realized then that he was no longer in his dormitory, but had somehow been transported to the magic tower. Chapter 833. The deal with Harry. John was searching for Harry when he stumbled upon him in the Wizarding City. Harry seemed to be deep in conversation, but John didn't pay much attention to the topic. After all, if he had to eavesdrop on every discussion about the Witch King, he'd never have a moment to himself. Using his mind magic, John transported Harry, who was still in his pajamas adorned with owl patterns, into his mental realm. "Your pajamas are quite unique," John observed, noting the owl design that faintly reminded him of Basil. Harry, caught off guard and slightly embarrassed, looked around in confusion. "How did I get here?" he wondered aloud. He remembered being in bed at the burrow just moments ago, and now, suddenly, he found himself in the magic tower without any recollection of being apparated. "It's a form of magic. Remember the trance?" John explained, snapping his fingers. Suddenly, a bag of braised beans appeared in Harry's hand. He opened it and tasted the beans, finding them flavorless, much like the snacks John had given him after entering the trance hall at the Ministry of Magic. "This is a spiritual world I've created," John explained as he invited Harry to walk with him. A path unfolded before them, leading to a vantage point overlooking the entire Wizarding City. From there, Harry could see people bustling about the streets below. "What do you want from me?" Harry inquired as they walked. He knew there were no Horcruxes of Voldemort's here. Everything was under John's control. "I want something from you," John replied, "and in return, I'm willing to grant you a wish." "What's the catch?" "You mentioned an equal exchange," Harry said, wary of John's intentions. Having witnessed John's attempts to deceive others, Harry had grown cautious. John chuckled. "It seems you remember. Yes, an equal exchange," he affirmed, stopping above the Wizarding City as the clouds around them also came to a halt. "I want your invisibility cloak," he stated, looking directly into Harry's eyes. "My invisibility cloak?" Harry was taken aback. He had assumed John would request something else, given the Witch King's capabilities to conceal himself without a trace. Harry couldn't fathom why John would want his cloak. "I won't keep you in the dark. Your invisibility cloak has a prestigious origin," John explained calmly. "You're familiar with the tale of the three brothers, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak. The one you possess is the very cloak that Death himself handed to the third Peverell brother," John continued, hoping to clarify the cloak's significance. I'm telling you this to make it easier for you to decide. I'm only one item away from completing the Deathly Hallows. John's transparency made Harry ponder. The cloak's remarkable heritage was news to him, and he realized the magnitude of what John sought. Harry knew that with John's magical prowess, any wish for wealth or power could easily be fulfilled. Yet Harry hesitated, observing the calmness and lack of greed in John's eyes. "Is anything really possible?" Harry asked. "As long as you desire it," John assured him. After a moment of contemplation, Harry shook his head. "I decline the deal." "Oh?" John's gaze intensified, focusing on Harry. The lightning scar that had once been a symbol of Harry's role as the savior, housing fragments of Voldemort's evil Horcrux, was no longer visible. Following their trade, the scar that had marked Harry for over a decade began to fade, disappearing completely with Voldemort's demise. Without the scar, Harry's connection to that part of his past seemed to diminish, prompting him to reconsider the value of what was being asked of him. Despite his identity as a savior being overshadowed, Harry harbored no grievances. Instead, he recognized John's overwhelming victory as a natural destiny, subject to the inevitable changes of time and the emergence of new variables. Through diligent effort, Harry carved out a place for himself as an Auror, becoming a star whose brilliance was dim, met by others. John, having ascended to the position of British Minister of Magic, had perused the Auror reports brought by Barty Jr. and acknowledged Harry's innate talent. In his first year, Harry had distinguished himself, positioning him as a contender for the soon-to-be vacant head of the Auror office. Curious about what drove such a gifted Auror who had stepped out of his savior's shadow, John sought to understand Harry's desires. Facing John, Harry spoke with earnestness. "I don't want anything. In fact, I'd rather give you the invisibility cloak. If it works, it'll bring me peace." John, amused by Harry's offer, chuckled. "Are you offering me charity?" "No," Harry replied, his anxiety palpable. John raised his hand to silence Harry, understanding the gesture's significance. "Harry, there's a saying, what's free is the most expensive. I don't wish to be indebted to anyone, so let's make it an exchange of equal value." With a snap of his fingers, John altered their surroundings, making it feel as though they were on a high-speed train, which momentarily unsettled Harry. When the motion ceased, they found themselves back in the Magic Tower. Standing before the throne of the Eternal Witch King, John's patience waned. "Harry, state your terms." Harry, realizing John's reluctance to accept a gift without cause, conceded, "If you can arrange a meeting with Hermione, the invisibility cloak is yours." Harry's guilt over Hermione's estrangement from John weighed heavily on him, and he saw this as an opportunity for reconciliation. John, after a brief pause, agreed to Harry's condition. A magic circle enveloped them, signifying their pact. As their hands touched, the circle contracted, leaving a mark on the back of their hands. Suddenly, Harry found himself rapidly retreating from the Magic Tower, landing at the burrow in mere seconds. "What?" Harry's exclamation startled Ron, causing him to tumble from his bed. "What's wrong, Harry?" Ron asked, rubbing his head and lamenting his lost confidence. "You think Hermione won't accept me?" Ron inquired, disheartened. After reassuring Ron and noticing the time had barely advanced, Harry was astounded. It felt like half an hour had passed, yet only a minute had elapsed. The marks on his hand, visible under the moonlight, confirmed the reality of his agreement with John. Contemplating whether to share this with Ron, Harry decided against it, seeing Ron had already fallen asleep. Maybe this is for the best, Harry thought, his gaze drifting towards the Magic Tower. The moonlight cast a mysterious glow, reflecting his hope for Hermione and John's reconciliation. Feeling a twinge of guilt towards Ron, Harry resolved to include him in the next Auror mission to enhance his training. As he lay down again, Harry's thoughts lingered on the future, hopeful yet uncertain. He pulled the quilt over himself and closed his eyes. After a while, he fell asleep. Chapter 834, Collecting the Deathly Hallows. Hermione is a workaholic. Even after being transferred to another department, she continued her advocacy for the betterment of house elves. In the Ministry of Magic, she took over her new role without hesitation. The Department of International Magical Cooperation, which she joined, was originally divided into 3 sections: the International Magical Trade Standards Association, the International Office of Magical Law, and the British chapter of the International Confederation of Wizards. However, with the dissolution of the International Federation of Wizards, it was reorganized into two departments. Hermione found herself in the International Magical Law Office, a position previously held by Percy. Her main responsibility was to regulate the conduct of wizards from other countries and occasionally act as a circuit court to investigate illegal activities. From the moment Hermione assumed her new role as director, she was inundated with cases. She had to deal with a wizard Harry had captured, who had a criminal record in a foreign country, necessitating communication with the Finnish Ministry of Magic. As the days went by, she was so engrossed in her work that she missed a Quidditch match she had planned to attend. One evening, as the simulated weather system of the Ministry's underground location showed a dimly lit sky, Hermione stretched, her silhouette outlined against the backdrop of her office. Just then, a voice suggested she consider having breakfast first, startling her. She turned to find John in her office, holding a newspaper that had obscured his face until that moment. "When did you come in?" she asked, surprised. "While you were dealing with that dancing trash can case from France," John replied, putting down the newspaper. He invited her to breakfast, and Hermione, momentarily confused, wondered why John was there. He explained that Harry had asked him to meet her, which left her feeling a bit disappointed, thinking it was just a transactional visit. John led the way to the ministry's dining area, which had been converted from an office for convenience and also served as an employment opportunity for house elves, thanks to Hermione's proposal. As they walked, Hermione inquired about Crookshanks, to which John replied that the clever cat was likely hunting rats in the ministry. Their presence together sparked curiosity and whispers among other ministry employees. Hermione, despite her capabilities, had few friends there, mainly Harry and Ron. The sight of her with John, known as the Witch King, left many employees speechless and regretful of any past criticisms. They had underestimated Hermione, not realizing she had such a powerful ally. In the dining area, Hermione ordered a pancake filled with cornmeal crust, vegetables, and tuna meat. The atmosphere between her and John was harmonious, challenging the perceptions of those who had doubted her. Hermione carried her food to a table and sat down, facing John. After taking a bite, she asked with a hint of discomfort, "Aren't you going to eat?" John glanced at the food, pondered for a moment, and replied, "No, I haven't eaten in 2 months." "Not eating for 2 months?" Hermione looked at him in astonishment. "How is that possible?" "Perhaps it's because I've become less human, so my need for food has diminished," John explained with a shrug. "I only eat now for social reasons." "Become less human?" Hermione felt a sudden heaviness in her hands, holding the food. "When did this happen to you?" She put down the cake she had barely tasted, her expression somber. "I had no idea. The food became difficult to swallow, and Hermione felt a nauseous sensation, though she couldn't vomit. Witnessing such a drastic change in John was unsettling. "We haven't been in touch for some time," John remarked, shaking his head. "It's understandable that you didn't know. You shouldn't feel guilty. As I've said before, you made your choices and achieved the outcomes you desired." He observed Hermione, noting how her front teeth had reduced in size and her face had become more refined. "We never owe anyone anything." "That's true, isn't it?" Hermione nodded in silence, but she couldn't bring herself to eat the breakfast. Her appetite was overwhelmed by remorse and guilt, leaving no room for food. They walked from the Ministry of Magic to the Muggle City. On the streets of London, amidst the winter snowflakes, no one could guess that they were the Witch King and the Witch. John wrapped a scarf adorned with the Magic Kingdom logo around his neck and offered another scarf to Hermione. "Thank you," she whispered her gratitude. "How is Mr. Granger doing?" John inquired. "He's fine, though his recent illness has kept him occupied," Hermione replied. "Candy has been causing trouble for children's teeth." "But that's a steady source of income, isn't it?" John chuckled, recalling his father's visit to Granger's dental clinic for a tooth extraction. It was a long journey, one that Hermione would continue for many years. Yet, in some ways, it was also very short. As Hermione and John left footprints in the snow, they approached Granger Dental Clinic. John paused when an ice cream truck passed by. He signaled the truck to stop. In Hogsmeade, ice cream is quite popular in the winter, John mentioned as he approached the truck. He ordered 2 strawberry-flavored ice creams from the kindly old man operating the truck. After paying, John handed one to Hermione. "I remember you like this flavor," he said. Hermione accepted the ice cream, reminded of a similar moment from their past. The familiar taste brought tears to her eyes, which she couldn't hold back. "It's sweet," she managed to say, smiling through her tears. "John," Hermione called out to him, her voice tinged with emotion. "Hermione Granger," she said, introducing herself as if they were meeting for the first time. John smiled in response. John Wick. As they stood there, surrounded by passing pedestrians, it was as if they were back on the train to Hogwarts, introducing themselves with youthful enthusiasm. The boy who was once reckless and slightly narcissistic, and the girl with curly hair and prominent front teeth, had come a long way since then. "Goodbye, John." "Goodbye, Hermione." Hermione remained in the snow for a long while after their farewell. When Mrs. Granger saw her daughter return, that she sensed something was amiss and offered her comfort with a hug. Hermione's tiny sobs were muffled as she clutched the partially eaten strawberry-flavored ice cream. It was all over. Harry had kept his promise, and the invisibility cloak had passed into John's hands. The 3 Hallows of Death were united once more. Chapter 835, Resonance of the Deathly Hallows. Is it a pity? Indeed, it is. Once best friends, now estranged. The strawberry-flavored ice cream in my hand slowly melted, its thick cream dripping onto the cold stone of the tower. Tom licked the ice cream off the floor, while John took a small taste, only to find that his sense of taste had long since faded. When he tasted delicious food again, it didn't evoke the same feelings as before. To him, it was merely cold. "Here, you can have it." Handing the ice cream to Tom, the Golden Man approached, his curiosity piqued by the unfamiliar treat. For Protoss, who have no need for food, the taste of ice cream was like discovering a new world. Helmer, clutching the ice cream, dashed towards the stairs, with Hector and Tom in hot pursuit. The 2 Protoss and a dog engaged in a playful scuffle over the ownership of the ice cream. Basil was awakened, his eyes flashing with irritation. Riddle, on the other hand, tilted its head and hopped twice in place without taking flight. The invisibility cloak, a thin fabric that could be folded into a compact square small enough to fit in a pocket, seemed no more significant than a pack of tissues when Harry presented it. John unfolded the invisibility cloak, finding it perfectly sized for his current stature. As he vanished from sight within the magic tower, Riddle looked around, puzzled by John's sudden disappearance. In the end, Helmer, with agile movements, secured the strawberry ice cream and filled his mouth with it. An irate Tom launched him into the air like a rubber ball. After bouncing on the ground a couple of times, Helmer got up and initiated another round of escape through the deserted magic tower, only to realize that John was nowhere to be seen. Helmer's frantic beeping filled the air as he called out to his brother. Hector pounced, overpowering the star spirit and capturing Helmer, who continued to shout anxiously. Hector, too, responded in the incomprehensible language of the stars. Tom, catching John's scent, began to sniff around the ground, searching for him. It's impossible to completely mask a scent. Harry was once discovered by Mrs. Norris despite the cloak, John observed, watching Tom approach from beneath the cloak. He mused that if the invisibility effect were slightly more potent, the cloak would not compare to the other 2 Deathly Hallows. Removing the cloak, John's pupils transformed into vertical slits as he scrutinized it. The magic woven into the fabric was peculiar. The chaotic particles on the cloak shimmered with uncertainty. Pushing aside an eager Tom, a magic circle materialized on John's palm. This will take some effort to decipher. This invisibility cloak was not made from the hair of an invisible beast, but from a different material, akin to thestral feathers, visible only to those who have experienced death. However, its unique property was its ability to evade death. Similar to a pass from death, the wearer could escape death's gaze. Voldemort, who was punished for splitting his soul and attempting to cheat death, chose the wrong path. Immortality could be achieved, but not through the exploitation of others' souls. Thus, Voldemort was marked by the god of death, whereas Nicholas Flamel, who lived for 600 years, faced no such condemnation. Possessing this invisibility cloak meant evading death's detection, rendering the wearer invisible even to the god of death. It's a remarkable artifact, yet also a disappointment, John reflected. The cloak offered little benefit to him, its utility not even matching that of the resurrection stone. Stowing the cloak in his pocket, John considered its origin. Perhaps it was merely an item discarded by death itself. The notion of becoming the master of death was, after all, somewhat exaggerated. The person who propagated this idea likely never anticipated someone actually achieving it. John had always harbored the ambition to collect all the Deathly Hallows. He suggested to Tom that it might be a good idea to spend some time playing with the Protoss, a spec ally, since he had noticed Basil, his first pet, and much like an elder sister to the others, sharpening her claws on the shelf. Tom, a lively and active creature, never dared to resist Basil, even when she pulled his ears. John expressed his concern about the frequent ventures outside in search of Hedwig. Approaching the owl stand, he reached out to pet the snowy owl's head. Sometimes, through closed eyes, John could share Basil's perspective as she searched for Hedwig. The rivalry between Hedwig and Basil, both snowy owls, seemed almost natural. Even Harry had pleaded with Basil to spare Hedwig, but the stubborn owl never backed down, turning their encounters into a form of entertainment for Basil. Upon hearing John's words, Basil stepped aside, clearly displeased, prompting John to offer a dried fish to coax her back. Riddle, observing this, showed interest in the treat as well, and John tossed one to him, which was caught with precision. John mused to himself about the allure of the Deathly Hallows, acknowledging his own greed, but also the thrill of the hunt, regardless of the legend's promise of mastering death. He then proceeded to examine the Hallows, Slytherin's locket, the Resurrection Stone, and the Elder Wand, along with the Invisibility Cloak. To John, these items were not just legendary artifacts, but treasures that reminded him of the adventurous journey they represented. However, as he observed them, an unusual and somewhat familiar aura emanated from the objects, reminiscent of the sensation he felt stepping out from under the curtain in the Ministry of Magic's Chamber of Death. John, a man of adventure, reflected on his exploits through time, trading at the Gate of Things, navigating the ancient and evil wizard pyramid, and battling formidable monsters. His spirit of adventure was undiminished, and the gathering of the Deathly Hallows, now linked to the Death Hall, sparked a new curiosity in him. Deciding to embark on this mysterious adventure as a sort of final vacation, John prepared himself. With a snap of his fingers, the Deathly Hallows assembled before him. The Elder Wand slid into his cuff, the Resurrection Stone returned to the locket, and the Invisibility Cloak draped around him. Cloaked in invisibility, John vanished from the magic tower, leaving behind a passage he had carved. Stepping through the passage, the world appeared different through the haze of the Invisibility Cloak. John arrived at the red phone booth, his fingers brushing over the phone, signaling the beginning of yet another mysterious adventure. The booth that originally required registration had sunk. The Witch King infiltrated the Ministry of Magic. "Hermione isn't here today?" Ron, who had finally mustered the courage, approached with a rose, only to be informed that Hermione had taken leave. This news disheartened him. As a good friend, Harry was torn about whether to inform Ron of John and Hermione's recent meeting. Both were dear friends, and Hermione's subsequent leave of absence left Harry wondering if something had happened to her. Ron, looking dejected, held the rose and began petal divination. A simple game of she loves me not. "We can go another time, Ron," Harry suggested gently. "Forget it. I feel like I've lost all my courage," Ron lamented. Harry hesitated, unsure of what to say next. At that moment, his attention was drawn to an elevator descending. The elevators at the Ministry of Magic had gates, allowing one to see inside. Oddly, this particular lift appeared to be empty. Harry found this peculiar, but his concern for Ron quickly reclaimed his focus. The elevator headed to the Department of Mysteries. In its dark corridors, footsteps echoed. The black door at the end of the corridor swung open. "This feels really awkward," mused the Witch King, finding it strange to sneak into the Ministry of Magic. The blue fire in the round hall cast a faint glow. After navigating the hall, John found the door leading to the Death Chamber. Surrounding it were steps leading to an archway in the center. John descended the steps slowly. A fierce battle had once raged here, and now John stood under that ominous arch once again. He was about to step through it. Was it death that awaited him, or a different adventure altogether? Chapter 836, Seeing Death Again. The Department of Mysteries harbors numerous enigmas, among which the room filled with the essence of love and the Hall of Death stand out. The latter, a place designated for executions, has fallen into disuse. In recent times, the Ministry of Magic has outsourced the grim task of dealing with death and execution to the Dementors, leaving the Hall of Death abandoned. The mysterious archway within it, leading to an unknown destination, has always intrigued those who dare to venture close. Sirius Black nearly succumbed to its allure, only to be saved by John, who, in that moment, became his savior. Now, standing before the arch once more, John observed the thin curtains swaying without any breeze to stir them. He sensed a connection between the arch and the Deathly Hallows, a familiarity in their call to the beyond. I once walked out of Nirvana, and now I am entering while alive, he mused, contemplating the journey ahead. Elsewhere, the magic tower stood tall against the winter sky, a season harsh for birds, yet surprisingly kind to dogs. Riddle, awakening from his slumber, seemed to sense something in the air. With a flap of his wings, he departed the tower, leaving Basil to watch him go without pursuit. At the base of the tower, Daphne wrestled with her doubts. She approached the door several times, each attempt ending in hesitation. Just as she decided to leave, a shadow descended upon her. Riddle, having observed her indecision, chose to intervene, landing on her shoulder with a comforting presence. His arrival prompted the door to open, as if acknowledging their bond. "Christmas is coming, so it makes sense for me to give you Christmas gifts," Daphne whispered, half to Riddle, half to herself, as she mustered the courage to step inside. The interior of the magic tower greeted her with a chill far colder than the outside world, the black walls and shadows at her feet creating an ominous atmosphere. A solitary staircase leading into the depths below beckoned her forward. With Riddle's weight on her shoulder, Daphne began her ascent. The staircase seemed endless, each step enveloped in darkness, leaving no path but forward. Despite the daunting journey, Riddle's presence offered solace, his feather gently wiping away her sweat in a silent gesture of support. "Thank you, Riddle," she murmured, finding strength in his silent encouragement. It was Riddle's decision to guide her here, yet Daphne felt it was the right choice. Only by ascending this staircase could she begin to understand the path of the one she cared for. Back in the Hall of Death, John stood ready to confront the archway. The whispers emanating from it were indistinct, the voices of those who had passed on calling out to him. With a determined step, he moved towards the arch, embracing the journey from life to death, a journey he had once dictated for himself. As John approached, the whispers intensified, yet to him, they were mere background noise, a testament to his familiarity with death. His body began to fade under the cloak, becoming ethereal as he stepped through the arch, like a key entering a lock, embarking on a journey to uncover the secrets held within. Traveling to different places evokes a variety of feelings, but few can remain conscious on the path to death. John, however, did. He witnessed a world of endless wind, snow, and frost, where the undead wander in confusion, devoid of self-awareness. Some trudge forward instinctively, their shoes worn through, leaving trails of bloody footprints on the rugged road. Occasionally, one might see horses galloping, pulling carts, and a knight of the afterlife riding his colt. This is the way to the world of the dead, John realized, a path shrouded in fog, reminiscent of what he once saw in Nirvana. Only through this realm can one reach the other shore. John surmised his wakefulness was due to the deathly hallows he possessed, artifacts originally belonging to the god of death, designed to help their bearer evade death itself. As John ventured forward, the dense fog obscured his vision, forcing him to follow the aimlessly wandering souls. Among them were individuals from modern times, clad in tattered suits, and others dressed in medieval attire. The journey seemed endless, with many walking for ages without reaching their destination. These lost souls were in dire need of guidance. A resurrection stone materialized in John's hand, drawing upon the power of souls. Holding it, he found that every ghost he passed would fall in line behind him. Within a day, he had amassed a following of over a dozen souls. With each passing day, despite the journey's length, John felt no weariness. On the contrary, the presence of the souls invigorated him, a boon he attributed to the deathly hallows, which wielded even greater power in the realm of death. By the second day, the number of followers had grown to 50. The resurrection stone in his hand served as a beacon, lighting the way for the ghosts, while the elder wand he wielded parted the mists before them. Cloaked in death's own garment, John became a guide for the undead, his demeanor growing ever calmer, as if he were morphing into the Grim Reaper himself, shepherding the lost. The sensation was indescribably profound. Nobles in their carriages and a knight joined the procession, which soon grew into a long line of undead, forming a formidable entourage in the kingdom of death. By the fourth day, the number had swelled to over 1,000. The rugged roads and harsh weather took their toll on the undead, their worn shoes and the cold wind a testament to their suffering. As days passed, the procession grew exponentially, reaching 2,000, then doubling to 4,000, and eventually 8,000 souls. Among them was a wizard, still bewildered in death, possibly a victim of the death curse, or a potion experiment gone awry. The souls of wizards, laden with peculiarities, often met their end in this realm, a place not just of death but of exile. By the 8th day, the procession had grown to 6,000, resembling a long serpent from above, winding steadfastly in one direction. Despite the uncertainty of their destination, John felt an innate pull, a conviction that kept him moving forward without pause, powered by death's cloak that granted him endless stamina in this world of death. He felt the end of their journey drawing near, guided by an inexplicable sense, compelling him to continue, step by step, without stopping, for those who fell behind. On the 9th day of his journey, John finally glimpsed his destination, a river spanned by a bridge made of gold-plated crystal. Remarkably, the bridge appeared to be suspended by a single strand of hair. Accompanied by the undead, John approached the bridge. He halted at its edge, but the undead behind him pressed forward, stepping onto the bridge one by one. Despite the seemingly fragile support, the hair remained unswayed, and the water beneath was calm. Yet no soul of the dead dared to approach it closely. Those who did were overcome by involuntary screams. This procession, thousands strong, crossed the bridge without incident. John was about to follow when he abruptly stopped. An unexpected figure had appeared before him. "You appear in the world of the dead, John Wick," a voice said, its owner hidden beneath a cloak, a skeletal finger pointing at John. With a smile playing on his lips, John faced this obstacle as if greeting an old friend. "I thought I'd have to venture deeper before encountering you," he said, his tone laden with meaning. The Grim Reaper had come to meet him. Chapter 837, Living People Walking on Death's Ground. The audacity of the living to tread upon the ground of death made even death itself take notice. Once again, they met, John, the Witch King of the current magical world, and Death, the god of death who had left behind legends. "Now that you are in the world of death," Death said, staring intently at John, "you appear even more irrational than I had thought." "I haven't forgotten that, Death," John replied, meeting Death's gaze without flinching. Despite being banished from the world, he remembered who was responsible. Death laughed. "That was the world's choice. You cannot resist the rules of the world." "Really? But here I am back again," John stated calmly. "Not only have I returned, but I am also standing before you." Death's laughter ceased abruptly as he continued to stare at John, his tone threatening. "It is not a good thing to stand before me." "Is that so? Then would you prefer to shake my hand?" John retorted, undaunted, silencing Death. Taking a step forward, John was stopped by Death's warning. "Hair cannot support the weight of a living person, John." Raising an eyebrow, John took out the Elder Wand and said casually, "Okay, let's try another way." Across the river, vines and branches intertwined, quickly forming a sturdy wooden bridge. John crossed over and greeted Death from the other side. "As long as you build a bridge yourself, haven't you experienced it?" Death, unable to see his face clearly, sensed the immense power emanating from John at that moment. "Have you collected all the Deathly Hallows?" Death asked, unable to think of any other reason why John could defy the rules of this deathly domain. John flaunted his invisibility cloak and replied, "Obviously." This admission troubled Death. As they crossed the bridge, entering the world of death, John mused, "Should I call this the underworld or death? It's all the same. Underworld, hell, whatever you prefer," Death responded as they walked like friends across the river, past steel leaves and trees, with the undead continuing their march forward. "It is Death's duty to extradite the undead," Death explained. "You should understand the extent of Death's power here." "Yes, I feel it. Now, I feel almost omnipotent," John remarked, wielding the Elder Wand. It reminded him of the dark dimension he had visited, where the energy from extraditing the undead was enough to deem him a demigod. Wherever the Elder Wand pointed, steel trees blossomed with flowers and bore fruit. Such power drew even the god of death's attention. "Your power. What about it?" John inquired. "It's nothing." Death decided not to continue. "Even with the deathly hallows, one shouldn't be able to make the iron trees bear fruit in this realm." John was special, the most unique individual Death had ever encountered, surpassing even the most powerful wizards Death had taken. This uniqueness was why the god of death maintained a friendly demeanor towards someone who was once blacklisted. They walked through the woods, enveloped in fog and blizzards. The world seemed inseparable from the cold wind and fog that filled every corner. They passed rivers with sharp knives in the water, capable of crushing anyone at any moment, and ice-covered ground that cracked underfoot. The shivering undead passed by, a reminder of the dead world they were in. "It looks like a canyon," John observed, surprised by the landscape. "The places everyone can reach are different. Some find themselves in hell, others in the underworld," Death explained calmly. "You, being alive, can reach even more special places. There's a woman here who entered the world of death just like you. The difference is, she did it because of her father's betrayal." "Then she is truly pitiful," John remarked, though his tone betrayed his indifference. He looked at the god of death and said, "It seems you have no intention of doing anything to me. Is it because of the rules?" The concept that the god of death cannot intervene with the living was already established in the tale of the three brothers. John, who is still very much alive, even within the realm of death, has never truly died. "You possess a unique power," Death remarked, "a very special one." It was the power of the phoenix, capable of resurrection from death. Curious, John inquired, "As the Grim Reaper, can you perceive death itself?" Death shook his head in response. "The god of death isn't as all-powerful as you might believe. Here, in the world of death, death and souls are merely common entities." John nodded in understanding. Just as wizards are perceived as deities by ordinary people, within the magical world, they are merely regular inhabitants. Despite his skepticism towards Death's explanations, John chose not to challenge them further. "Your task of guiding the undead pleases Death, granting you the privilege to remain here," Death explained, his hood fluttering to reveal a skeletal visage. John, thoughtful at Death's revelation, asked, "Is there a deity superior to you?" Reflecting on the question, Death observed his own skeletal hand and mused, "As an embodiment of death, I'm uncertain if I've ever truly lived. To have never been born implies you cannot die." Initially, John had intended to confront Death, but upon seeing his current state, he felt it pointless. It appeared that even the god of death had his moments of confusion. Death, catching the undertone of John's thoughts, looked at him with significance. "You are the only one who has become a friend to me." John chuckled and shook his head. "Friends? I never agreed to that. And weren't you friends with someone before?" Death clarified. "If you're referring to Ignotus Peverell, the stories you've heard are somewhat inaccurate. He did greet Death as an old friend at the end of his life, but not in the way you think." The wind continued to disturb Death's hood, prompting him to remove it entirely. He was indeed taken by Death, but not as a friend would. It's more accurate to say that Death came knocking, and he chose to meet it willingly rather than wait for the inevitable. Death shared a lesser-known fact. One cannot escape death, and he found that the invisibility cloak was beginning to merge with his flesh. He was on the verge of becoming the Grim Reaper himself, Death revealed, a secret known only to him. The humble third brother. When Death approached, he nearly transformed into the Grim Reaper. The cloak was embedding into his flesh, peeling his skin away. If one cannot die, they are destined to become a god of death. The third brother also recognized the sorrowful duty that came with the role, opting to relinquish the task of guiding the undead and became the last soul taken by death. John glanced at Death, remarking dryly, "Your attempts at intimidation are somewhat lacking." Death laughed, conceding, "All right, you've seen through me. If I offered you the chance to become the god of death, would you accept?" John scoffed. "That's eternal life, but sadly I have no interest in it. Better leave that choice to the next unfortunate soul who finds their way here." "You're very astute," Death sighed, a hint of admiration in his voice. "It would indeed be a pleasure to call you a friend. Feel free to roam as you wish. This is your privilege, but be warned, death can come at any moment." With that, Death disappeared into the fog. John watched him go, dismissing the idea of friendship with Death. He knew all too well Death's penchant for deception. Had it not been for Death's seemingly genuine demeanor, John might have been inclined to confront him. Now, he pondered the extent of his own power compared to that of Death. With the authority he wielded over the undead, John felt confident that a confrontation was not out of the question. As he moved forward, the invisibility cloak he wore transformed into a black cloak within the realm of death. Removing his hood, John continued on his path. The landscape resembled a canyon, and as he ventured further, a dense fog began to envelop the surroundings. In John's line of vision, a figure materialized, appearing almost ethereal in its thinness. Chapter 838, Mysterious Woman. A solitary figure, a woman, stood before John, echoing the words of Death about a woman ostracized by her father. Surprised to see someone else in this desolate place, she eyed John curiously. "The new Shinigami?" she asked, her tone laced with boredom as she perched on a rock, her black attire accentuating her slender figure. Her black hair contrasted with her fair skin, and dark circles, whether from lack of sleep or intentional makeup, framed her eyes. John greeted her with a simple hello, picking up a small stone she had tossed in his direction. The stone, dark and smooth, rolled to a stop at his feet. The woman's interest piqued at the sight of John, particularly noting his attire and lively appearance. "Are you alive?" she inquired, her voice tinged with wonder as she hopped down from the rock and approached him. Her tall stature was evident as she reached out to lift John's chin, leaning in to catch the scent of life on him. "Where did you come from, boy?" "I am no longer a boy, to be precise," John corrected her gently, removing her hand from his chin. He glanced around before asking, "Are you the one betrayed by your father?" "Betrayed by my father? Ha, you have a way with words," the woman laughed, her mood lightening. "I suppose I'm not inclined to kill you anymore." "Thank you very much," John responded, his tone amused. Noticing her discomfort, he waved his hand, transforming the stone into a chair for her. "I think you need a chair." Upon witnessing this, the woman recognized John's identity. "Wizard," she stated plainly. "Obviously," John replied with a shrug, conjuring a chair for himself and taking a seat. The woman sat opposite him, and it seemed she hadn't spoken to anyone in a long time. They engaged in conversation, and John learned that she had been exiled here for thousands of years. Her father, once a warlike monarch, had unexpectedly embraced kindness, abandoning territories they had fought hard to win. As his first child and a loyal warrior, she had never failed him in battle, but she couldn't accept his sudden change of heart. Her protest led to their estrangement, and ultimately, her father exiled her, deeming her too cruel. "He is both the barbarian and the benevolent," the woman said, her eyes filled with resentment. John listened sympathetically, understanding the irony of her situation, a woman trained by her barbaric father to be a warrior, only to be abandoned by him when he turned towards peace. "Your father didn't banish you," John sighed, "but rather the savage part of yourself." The woman looked at John, a curious glint in her eyes. "Do you really think so?" "Of course," John affirmed. "I am also a king, so I understand these things." "A king?" she asked, surprised. "What kind of king are you?" "Wizard King," John replied with a smile, "and I would be honored if you referred to me as such." "You're bold to speak to me in this manner," the woman observed, her gaze steady. "Are you also an exile?" "Not exactly," John clarified, shaking his head. "I came here by choice." Seeing his journey as an adventure, John shared stories of his experiences in the wizarding world, his adventures as a child, as an adult, and his current endeavors. "You, as a king, should conquer," the woman remarked disdainfully after hearing about John's decision not to destroy a certain country. Use your power to conquer that world. It's an interesting idea, but unfortunately, Slytherin's selfishness prevents it, John replied nonchalantly. After such destruction, wizards would lack the ability to govern those places effectively. As a king, you must think more broadly, don't you? John's words prompted the woman to reflect. Having served as her father's executioner, she had always resorted to violence. However, John's perspective on leadership and governance challenged her to reconsider her approach. Do you want me to empathize with my father? The woman asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and challenge. John's eyes were cold as he pondered the notion of forgiveness. No, that's not being a king. That's being a fool, he decisively concluded. He didn't possess the compassion of a saint. Your father can banish you, so does he really see you as a daughter, or merely as a tool? He found no sympathy for the woman's father, only disgust. The father had taught his daughter the art of killing and instilled in her the ambition for conquest, only to later betray her, the very woman who fought on his behalf. As a king, he abandoned the warriors he had trained. As a father, he exiled his daughter and criticized women for their ferocity. Who, then, was the true architect of this tragedy? The women were merely the perfect executors, molded by his expectations. Was the woman to blame? She had merely lived up to her father's expectations, both as a king and as a parent. The one who had changed was not her, but her father. He sees you as a weapon he can no longer control, John said with a grin. If you choose revenge, you'll find me applauding from the sidelines. The woman's expression softened, her gaze on John, neither murderous nor icy. You're a decent man, and as a friend, you're quite likable, boy. Extending her hand to John, she asked, What do you think? I suppose friend is a fine title, John replied, shaking her hand with a smile. I hope our paths cross again in the future. The woman lifted her chin slightly, a gesture of pride as the king's daughter. John, known as the Witch King, mirrored her pride. It was often the case that proud individuals gravitated towards each other. Despite this being their first meeting, they had quickly formed a strong bond. Perhaps, John mused, he would still have a living friend many years from now. That would be quite an achievement. However, being called boy still felt odd to him. John Wick, he introduced himself. You can call me John. Your name is quite ordinary, the woman remarked. John replied with a resigned smile. But it's a good name. I have many names, but John is what my friends call me, she said with a laugh, her arrogance unmistakable. When I escape this place and claim my throne, I will seek you out, John. When I conclude my long vigil, we shall meet again, John said, sensing the encroaching mist. He had overstayed in this world. Death was beginning to reclaim its space from the living. Perhaps you should let me know how renowned your name is, he suggested, just before the mist enveloped him. The sensation was familiar, a strange force repelling his presence. Through the fading mist, the woman's voice reached him, barely audible. Hela, call me by my name, my friend, John. Chapter 839, The Girl on the Magic Tower. John returned to the death hall, feeling a push behind him as if a hand were urging him out of the arch. After staggering a few steps, he looked back at the door with a sense of helplessness. Did you agree to let me stay? He wondered. The realm of death seemed capricious, akin to a girl changing her mood without warning. Moments before, they were in harmony, and suddenly, he was being expelled. Adjusting his attire, John noticed the black cloak from the realm of death revert to a transparent hue, a stark reminder of the differences between the two worlds. He removed his invisibility cloak and tucked it into his chest pocket. Though he hadn't gained anything from his visit, making a new friend was a consolation. The snow will last for a while, he mused, leaving the Ministry of Magic and slowly traversing the snow-covered streets of London. The heavy snowfall urged people to quicken their pace and made vehicles move with caution. Under the blanket of snow, bustling London transformed into a picturesque scene. John approached a coffee shop, noting how popular warm coffee was among the British, especially in winter. The slight bitterness of the coffee seemed appealing, yet John, unable to taste it, hesitated and ultimately decided against entering. The allure of street desserts and an oriental restaurant caught his eye, but he resisted the temptation and continued his journey through London. Today was Christmas Eve, and the festive activities had already commenced. John pondered over Tang Mi's wish-making event, hoping for a more sensible wish this year, unlike the previous year's whimsical requests. He decided to spend Christmas at home, missing his parents and sister. I should prepare Christmas gifts for my family, that he thought, especially for Ariana, the youngest, who was expected to receive numerous gifts. As the sun set, John found himself in an alley, overhearing a familiar voice. "Amia, it's time to go to bed," said Aunt Jula. "I know, just let me beat Dad first," replied Amia, to which Gauss, her father, responded playfully. In these moments, Gauss shed his criminal persona, prioritizing his role as a father over any monetary concerns. John smiled at the joyful laughter emanating from the warmly lit room, but chose not to intrude on their family moment. The sound of Christmas carols filled the streets, adding to the festive atmosphere. John made his way to King's Cross Station, finding platform 9 3/4 unusually quiet. He was the sole person waiting, his breath visible in the cold air. Soon, the Albatross train arrived, its arrival announced by a mechanical female voice. John boarded, finding a window seat in the nearly empty carriage. The few passengers seemed as solitary as he was, each lost in their thoughts, scattered throughout the train. As the train departed, the landscape outside blurred with speed. John's journey was long, taking him from Paris to Berlin, each stop introducing new scenes and faces. Unbeknownst to the other wizards on the train, their Witch King was among them, contemplating the journey ahead. Life, knowledge, or the person they love. These are the stakes for those who board the night train to the Magic Kingdom. As the train resumes its journey, it crosses the ocean, transforming the sea below into an abyss that seems to swallow everything whole. This eerie transparency of the waters is precisely why the evening train has so few passengers. John, pondering whether this feature could be altered, steps through the portal with a serene expression, arriving at the outskirts of the Magic Kingdom. Amidst the mist, fire dragons streak across the sky, and a castle, suspended and elusive, hides in the clouds, visible only in fragments. This mysterious realm beckons many wizards to explore, yet the enveloping fog reveals no path save for the one known to the fire dragons, a privilege bestowed by the Dragon King. In this world, making decisions is a complex task, especially for the king, who must balance the survival of one land against the exploitation of another. Amidst these reflections, a small fire dragon attempts to earn the approval of a larger black fire dragon by spitting fireballs, only to be disdainfully pushed away. As the train continues, it passes through fog and over islands floating in the ocean, approaching a city blanketed in snow and adorned with Christmas lights, radiating warmth. This sight softens even the loneliest traveler's heart, reminding them of the joy of reuniting with family. Crossing an arch bridge, the Albatross reaches its destination, and as passengers disembark, John stands on the platform, observing the joyful reunions around him. Once the platform empties, he moves on, his presence unnoticed by those around him. The Wizard's Christmas Carol, a bizarre variation of familiar tunes, fills the air, alongside advertisements featuring products endorsed by notable figures like Lockhart and the Weasley twins. In contrast to the brightly lit surroundings, the Magic Tower stands tall and unadorned, save for the snowflakes that decorate its surface. The fear of the Witch King keeps wizards at bay, leaving the tower isolated and dark. John enters the tower, dispelling the illusion of invisibility. A staircase, barely lit, leads upwards into darkness, a path he has forged himself. The climb is arduous, but at its end, John is surprised to find a warm light, unlike the cold luminescence of the stars. Someone has lit a flame in the tower during his absence. Ascending further, John encounters Basil, a white owl, chasing after a dog named Tom, with Helmer riding on Tom's back. Their playful antics annoy Basil, who captures them and flies outside, much to Tom's dismay. Amused, John continues onward and soon spots Riddle's shadow-like form near an out-of-place flame in the center of the tower, indicating an unexpected visitor. Perched on a man's shoulder, a small creature observed its master's return. Hector crossed his arms over his chest, shaking his head in a mix of amusement and resignation at the sight of his brother, who seemed on the verge of being expelled. Behind the two, a girl stood, her long, golden hair tied up in a bun, a small flame dancing on her laurel wand, to ward off the chill of the magic tower. She rubbed her hands together for warmth. Upon noticing John's return, she stood up, her anticipation evident. The cold she felt was partly due to her attire, a beautiful green skirt that seemed too light for the tower's temperature. At some point, her ears had been pierced, now adorned with bright diamond earrings. Her slender white neck craned forward as she awaited John, her smile bringing a momentary light to the dim surroundings. "Daphne," John called out softly, causing her to momentarily hesitate before stepping forward with newfound courage. The dress she wore elegantly exposed her shoulders, a testament to her grace and beauty. Beneath the hem of her dress, her white, delicate toes peeked out, having retreated from the cold floor. Daphne quickly explained, "I took off my shoes because they made it difficult to climb the stairs." Riddle, standing to the side, nodded in agreement, as if to validate her statement. Indeed, navigating the stairs in high heels could be a daunting task, though the cold, hard floor of the magic tower was hardly more forgiving to bare feet. John looked at Daphne with a hint of amusement, not having expected her presence. Truth be told, he had assumed it was Percy who had come before he saw her. Chapter 840, Dance on the Lonely Tower. Today is Christmas Eve, a day that is just one step away from perfection. Daphne mustered up the courage to step into the tower to see the person she missed dearly. It felt like a fairy tale, where the princess and the prince meet. Riddle, lifting himself off Daphne's shoulder, flew towards the owl stand. Basil, despite the antics of the two troublemakers, hadn't expelled them. After a brief wander outside, he returned, flying to Riddle's owl stand to stay beside it. The black and white owls remained together. Upon seeing Daphne, John was slightly confused and asked, "Aren't you going home for Christmas?" Daphne, with her cheeks flushed from the cold, resembling snowy red makeup, replied, "I just wanted to come and see you." She quickly added, as if explaining her presence, "Father is furious because Draco eloped with Astoria." John fell silent, absorbing this piece of news. It seemed like something Draco Malfoy would do, kidnapping someone's daughter on Christmas Day. "What do you think Draco can do to avoid being killed by Mr. Greengrass?" John inquired. Daphne smiled softly and said, "If he were dead, he wouldn't have to worry about being killed." Indeed, someone who is already dead cannot be killed again. Snowflakes drifted into the magic tower, carried by the moonlight. Noticing Daphne shivering, John took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, saying, "This place isn't warm." He added, "Riddle is also worried you might be cold." This realization made Daphne smile. The owl that seemed the coldest was actually the warmest, unlike Basil, who appeared indifferent and oblivious to the cold. With a guest present, John naturally wanted to be a good host. He snapped his fingers and a tea set appeared. He conjured up a furnace to keep Daphne warm. Warm tea was poured, and Daphne took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her heart and soul. The two of them sat in the empty tower, and John apologized for not preparing many snacks. "No, that's fine," Daphne reassured him, looking outside. The moonlight illuminated her face, casting a veil over her features. When John saw this, he was moved. Daphne stood up and walked outside to the top floor of the magic tower, where an exit overlooked the city. She stepped on the snowflakes with her bare feet, her eyes reflecting the bustling scene of thousands of lights below. Leaning against the wall, she stared at the beautiful scenery and asked, as if to herself, "Is this what you saw?" John nodded and agreed. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Indeed, both the scenery and the moment were beautiful. Tom, leaning into John's arms with a flattering smile, enjoyed the attention. John rubbed Tom's head, but Riddle, observing this, communicated silently with Basil. In a swift move, Basil swooped down, grabbed Tom, and flew away, leaving Tom bewildered. Before Tom could react, Basil dropped him down the stairs, turning him into a tumbling ball. Helmer, who was on his way to find John, stopped in his tracks as a black owl landed next to him, staring with its round eyes. Helmer had no choice but to retreat and embrace his elder brother. Daphne, who had made up her mind, turned around and softly called John's name. John looked up and responded, "I'm here." Standing under the cold moonlight, Daphne appeared radiant, as if a spotlight shone on her beautiful dress. Snowflakes continued to fall, and she took off the coat John had given her. Stretching out her hand, she invited him, "Come dance with me." Daphne smiled serenely, her presence like moonlight shining into the dark magic tower, warming the cold and loneliness within. John stood before the magic tower, enveloped in solitude. Under the moonlight, he gazed at the girl before him, who seemed as if she were the moon's chosen companion, her wand casting a glow akin to moonlight itself. An unspoken invitation hung between them, awaiting a response. A smile graced John's lips as he stepped forward into the moonlight, closing the distance between him and Daphne. He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers in a silent greeting. The initial coldness of their touch gave way to warmth, a gentle exchange of comfort and promise. Daphne, taking the lead, clasped John's hand and drew him closer into the light, under the moon and the snow, reminiscent of a Christmas they had once shared. This time, however, John found himself following her lead. "Hold my waist," Daphne instructed, her voice quivering slightly with emotion. John complied, his hand finding the slender curve of her waist. His heart stirred, as if a stone had been cast into a tranquil lake, rippling through his calm demeanor. They danced alone, save for 2 owls and 2 Protoss who watched on as silent spectators. The world around them seemed to play its own music, perfectly in tune with their movements. Daphne moved with the grace of a canary, a reminder that she was not meant to be caged. Together, they created their own dance under the moonlight, smiles lighting up their faces. Meanwhile, Helmer and Hector, caught up in the moment, attempted to mimic the dance, but ended up in a playful scuffle instead. Riddle, unable to tolerate the disturbance, swiftly intervened, restoring peace. Basil, ever watchful, thwarted Tom's attempt to join the scene, ensuring the dance remained undisturbed. Outside the magic tower, the wizarding city was alive with festive cheer. Christmas trees lined the streets, and the air was filled with music and blessings for the Witch King. Various communities within the city celebrated in their own unique ways, from singing classes with their toads to werewolf families gathering in gratitude. Chudai and Zuofei watched over the children with affection, reminiscing about past Christmases. The call to join the central square for the Christmas countdown was met with enthusiasm, drawing families and friends together from all corners of the city. The Weasley family, along with Lupin, Tonks, and their baby, joined the gathering in the central square. As the clock struck midnight, fireworks illuminated the sky above the wizarding city, marking the beginning of Christmas. The dance atop the magic tower concluded with Daphne and John exchanging heartfelt Christmas wishes. "Merry Christmas, John," Daphne said, looking up at him with a smile that bloomed like a flower. "Merry Christmas, Daphne," John replied, his voice warm with affection. "Merry Christmas to everyone." In that moment, with fireworks lighting up the sky and the air filled with joyous celebrations, Daphne's heart was full. This was a moment she had dreamed of, a culmination of years that began with John's rescue from Peeves. Her smile was radiant as her hand gently rested over John's heart. In the quiet that followed, Daphne gazed into John's eyes, a world of emotions reflected in her own. "Promise me, John," she whispered, her voice laden with unspoken hopes. "Don't forget me." Aware of her feelings, Daphne gently caressed her face with her left hand. The faint pulse under her right fingertips served as a reminder of her humanity. The promise she had made to herself upon arriving here echoed in her mind. Perhaps it was time to release her grip, to accept defeat in this pursuit of love. With a sense of resignation, Daphne withdrew her hand and turned to walk away, convincing herself she harbored no regrets. Or did she? "Daphne," John called out, halting her departure. Instinctively, he reached out, his fingers brushing against her wrist. The contact left a mark on Daphne's heart, as indelible as ink. She realized then how fragile the courage she had summoned truly was. Yes, to confront love head-on. What Slytherin could claim bravery in this arena? We are cowards at heart. Skilled in calculation and adept at self-preservation, yet when faced with love, we falter like the blind, unable to discern the path ahead. We cling to a sliver of hope, only to ultimately let go. Love, in its greatness, demands patience and restraint. "I'm sorry, my king," she thought. "The selfish Slytherin in me yearns to claim you time and again. Even if it means descending into the yes, I still crave your proximity. It's my folly and pettiness. My king, permit me this selfishness. Even if I am to be buried beneath the earth, I will never forget your kindness." For a Slytherin, to endure in love is to uphold our last shred of dignity. Yet, you drive me to madness. I am the loser, ensnared in this pursuit, unable to free myself. Let me succumb to this obsession, if only to bask in the love you bestow upon others.